Good evening.
Evening.
Call to order the full city council meeting for March 7th, 2023. The clerk will call the roll for attendance.
Anderson Burgos,
Here.
Bartley,
Here.
Givner,
Here.
Jordan,
Here.
Maldonado Velez,
Here.
McGee,
Here.
McGivern,
Here.
Murphy Rumboletti,
Here.
Coelho,
Here.
Israel Rivera,
Here.
Jenny Rivera,
Here.
Tallman,
Here.
Bacon. Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
and the city of Holyoke.
Amen.
And the Holyoke St. Patrick's Parade Committee.
Yes. The
Before
ancient order of
we-
Hibernians.
Before we get started with our agenda, we're going to go to the Bartley Rule. Councilor Bartley, several years back, about 7, 8 years now, I think, Councilor, came up with a phenomenal idea, which would be to invite in the parade committee as a group and then recognize them. And through his efforts, he's been able to do this every year. So I turn it over to you, Councilor Bartley. Thank you very much. That was outstanding. First, I'm going to turn it over to Councilor Bartley, and then we'll turn it over to the parade committee itself. Councilor Bartley.
Mr. President, City Councilors, Madam Clerk, thank you so much for everybody being here. And this is our tradition. We started, as President McGee said, 8 years ago. to connect the city council a little bit closer to the parade committee. And so you're all welcome here in your city hall, and we're so grateful for your attendance. 70th parade coming up, 46th road race. This is a really exciting time for the city of Holyoke, and we're so very proud to be a part of it. This year, we kind of added a new tradition, hopefully a new tradition, and that is with an organization for which I still belong, Councilor Tallman belongs, and many, many others in the city. It's the Ancient Order Hibernians. So they dedicate a Man of the Year for the Ancient Order Hibernians and a Woman of the Year for the Ladies AOH. My lifelong friend, Jay Wellahan, is the Man of the Year. He cannot attend. He's actually working. But we are going to present the proclamation to him this Sunday at the AOH breakfast. In the meantime, we are going to invite up Mary O'Connor to receive a proclamation from the City Council. Congratulations, Mary. Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Oh, my favorite kind of speech. Probably yours too. Probably yours too. Like I said, I'll pass along Jay's proclamation. Now, one little caveat. Karen Casey, the president of the parade committee, is traveling. She's away, and I know she's heartbroken. She and I spoke about this many months ago in warmer weather, and she told me she had this planned. However, her shoes are being capably filled by a wonderful lady from Holyoke. Her father was a city councilor here for, I think, 13 terms. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to, I think she's the first vice president, but she'll correct me, Haley Fair-Dunn, who will introduce the parade committee dignitaries. Haley.
Thank you so much, Dave and Todd and members of the City Council. We're so delighted to be here today for this annual recognition of the Holyoke St. Patrick's Committee. We're really excited for Parade Weekend coming up in a few short weeks, but it truly is a collaborative effort. The 250 plus members of the committee work hard year-round to secure the sponsors, to plan the parades, to recruit for entertainment and music, but it really is a collaborative effort amongst our peers here in the city. Mayor Garcia, our friends here at City Hall, the City Council, of course, the police and fire departments, and the incredible men and women of the Department of Public Works who really helped to put this on, this showcase, year after year. So we would like to extend a thank you to all of you with the city, and thank you for all your help on behalf of the committee. But the parade is coming up, and we have an illustrious panel of award winners that I'd love to introduce and present to you this evening, beginning with our parade president, Ms. Karen Casey, who is not here, but we'll bring the citation back to her, and she does extend her her sorrow for not being here this evening. I'm going to say, I think first and foremost, our Citizenship Award recipients is the amazing Holyoke Caledonian Pipe Band, who you hear year after year. They come to all of our events and others, and they are just the cream of the crop, so much talent. We love them. We hear them all the time, but we can never get enough of hearing them. And thank you to the Holyoke Caledonian Bands, our 2023 Citizenship Award recipient for this year's parade.
I was kidding, I'm not giving a speech.
Thank you. Next up is our Rowan Award recipient, who is Kathy McAvady, who unfortunately couldn't be here this evening, but Kathy is a longtime parade committee member from Holyoke, and we'd like to extend a congratulations to Kathy this year. Next up is our 2023 Gallivan Award recipient. The Gallivan Award goes to a long-standing committee member who works tirelessly year after year. Although they may not be a resident of the city of Holyoke, they do tremendous work to make the committee and the parade successful year after year. And this year, we are so proud to recognize Jennifer Voyuk Morrison. Jen?
Thank you.
And next up is a name who is not a stranger to the City Council here, our 2023 O'Connell Award recipient. This award goes to a longtime parade committee member who works tirelessly to help fundraise for the parade. As you may know, it's a very expensive event weekend to put on, and we need to secure hundreds of thousands of sponsors each year. And this year, Kelly McGivern was by far and away the number one recipient, and we are so incredibly grateful to Kelly and her team for helping to make this parade so successful. So Kelly McGivern, congratulations.
I'm not going to speak either.
Speak.
My dad wants me to speak, but I'm going to say thank you, and now I know what it feels like to stand up here as president after my dad did so many years ago.
Before we recognize our Colleens, I would like to recognize our other award recipients who could not be here this evening. Our John F. Kennedy Award recipient is Holyoke's own Lenny Jacobson. We're so excited to bring Lenny back home for parade weekend. He will be honored at a dinner on September 18th, the night before the parade. And I don't even know what I said. March. Whatever day. You guys know what parade weekend is. I don't need to say the dates. So Lenny Jacobson, we're excited to have him back home. And then our Ambassador Award recipient this year is the U.S. Ambassador to Ireland, Claire Cronin. We are so excited to welcome her to Holyoke, and she's also going to be coming with some other officials from Ireland who you will all meet on Parade Day. So we're very thrilled to have these esteemed officials come over the pond over to Holyoke. Next, I would like to invite our 2023 Grand Colleen, Abby Ross-Glasheen from Holyoke, and she will her court members could not be here this evening, but she would like just to say a few words.
Hi, everybody. I'm Abby. I'm the Grand Colleen this year. I want to say first, my court members, I know they'd love to be here. Caroline, Mara, Lauren, and Katie. For me, this is a really special honor, and I'm so blessed to be from the city of Holyoke, where we cherish and honor so many cultures and traditions. And I'm really proud to be the Grand Colleen this year, and I can't wait to celebrate the green season with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. And finally, the Grand Marshal of our 2023 parade. As you know, this person kicks off the parade. She is responsible for the weather. We won't go there maybe, but but the Grand Marshal is the person who kicks off our parade is a person who has distinguished themselves in their chosen career and their personal life, and we could not be more proud to honor our own Jane Coughlin Chevalier as this year's Grand Marshal. Janie?
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here tonight because the last time that we were in these chambers was the night the parade was canceled. And the honor went on. You still held this honor recognizing the parade committee. And I'll tell you a little secret. We had all come from Griffin's because we were having a mini wake that night. And we came here and we heard the bagpipe playing that night, and we all were a blubbering, sad mess. And now, tonight, hearing the bagpipes and the music and the drums just gave me goosebumps, and it's so great to be back, and I can't wait to have a great parade weekend. Thank you.
So that's it for tonight, but we have an amazing showcase ready for all of you, for all of Western Mass, for all of the world, because you can watch the parade live on News 22 or stream it online. So please tell your friends and family, but we look forward to seeing you all parade weekend, and thank you for having us today.
That concludes it. One more thank you has to go out to Patty Devine, who puts together these beautiful proclamations with her calligraphy every single year. I know Patty's sitting here. There she is. Thank you, Patty, for your diligence. Thank you, President McGee. Thank you, City Council. And if the pipe band will lead us back out. Thank you.
Yeah. Congrats, I'm proud of you. Good job.
While that settles down for a bit, thank you to Councilor Bartley, all the council members. We do have councilors at home, so we do need to, if we're going to do roll calls and all that, a motion to take a roll call vote for the purposes of this meeting
moved.
would be
Second.
applicable to all motions, receive, refer items to committee, remove items from the table, place them on the table, package them together, or suspend the rules unless there is an objection. That was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? That's just a reminder for those at home that the reason we do that is if there is someone on Zoom for open meeting laws, we have to do it in that fashion, or everything would be a roll call vote. All right. So that's,
Mr. President,
yes, Councilor
I
McGivern.
make a motion to proceed out of order for the purpose of moving to the President's report.
Yep. So motion to go
Second.
for the President report. That is seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Just quickly, a couple things. First is Homework House as a spelling bee on April 27th. I know we usually got a team for the council to do that. It was Councilor McGivern, myself, and Councilor Valentine at the time. We got one word right, and then we basically just wrote a sign that said, please vote for us. So if you want to be having a team, get a hold of Homework House. You got a team in. Want to thank the mayor and several councilors that went to Puerto Rico for the Hector Picky Soto Volleyball Award, Volleyball Hall of Fame Award, for representing the city and everything that you did on our behalf. Thank you very much. The St. Patrick's Day breakfast is the 15th at 7:30 at Wyckoff Country Club. And then for the parade itself, this is just a reminder to be at Kmart Plaza at about, 10 a.m.? Normally, about 10 a.m., so that we can line up, get your flower on you, and then start the march promptly on time. Finally, just a last part of the President's report is for me. First, I'd like to say good evening. No, just read it. Happy pre-St. Patrick's Day to all. I just want to take a brief moment this evening to address you as my fellow councilors, the chamber, residents at home, and the city of Holyoke. For 18 years, I have served this city. At this time, it has come to take on a new role, a new chapter in my life. And therefore, at this time, I'm announcing my candidacy for mayor. No, I'm just kidding, Josh. I'm just kidding. I'd never do that to Josh. Josh is a phenomenal mayor. He honestly, I can honestly say this. It's been a pleasure working with our mayor. A pleasure. So no, Josh, I'm not running for mayor. But I will say that I am not going to seek re-election for this year. It truly has been an honor to serve this community. First as the Ward 6 city councilor, and then I kind of retired and came back immediately when Gordon left and represented Ward 7 and do that currently. I also want to thank this body and prior members for allowing me to serve as your president for 6 years. 18 years of service. It's definitely not 44 like someone else I know, but it's a good time. And I did, within that very brief time, also serve as your mayor. So it has been. That's why I'm not running. I've seen it. I've seen what happened there. But really, I feel it's the right time for me to take this step back and refocus as to what my future is and what path I will be taking. And that path is to see my kids grow up. It's time. I do it tonight because we just recognized the awardees in the St. Patrick's Day Committee. And this will be my last march. I want to make this announcement also to be fair to the residents of Ward 7. They need time to make their decision as to who's going to run and get their names out there, and I want to be fair to the residents. They've been outstanding to me. I can honestly say it's been an amazing journey to serve this city. I'm grateful to my fellow councilors, both here as the president and the past. I also want to thank city department heads, city employees, both present and past, that have supported me throughout my years of service. Without them, my career in government wouldn't have got me here today, nor would it have been as enjoyable as it was. We have phenomenal employees in this city, and they work very hard for us. And they made my life very enjoyable in this chamber. I cannot thank you enough for that, for your love and support from my family. I'm very grateful. 18 years, as I said earlier, 18 years, oh man, it's a lot. Who would have thought 18 years? I can actually remember it very clear. A certain person by the name of Patty Devine called me up. I was actually leaving court. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm driving back to the office." And she said, "Well, pull over. I got a question for you. The ward seat in Ward 6 became vacant, and I wish you would consider it." And I said, "Absolutely not." And she said, "Well, that's all right. I already pulled your papers." No, just kidding. That's against the law. That's against the law. You can't do that. But no, she said, "Please consider it." And I sat with her, and ultimately I took the leap. And I thank the residents of Ward 6, who have a phenomenal counselor now who represents them. I thank them for the opportunity, as well as the residents of Ward 7. They allowed me to continue to do a job I love, and that job is to help people. Anyone who knows me knows I have a passion, and that passion is to help people. If you work together, you can make this city the best it is, the city that I love. Not only make it best for now, but for this generation and generations to come. I hope my tenure in this body has made a positive impact that we can be proud of. In particular, certain projects we all worked on together. Community Field, Scotts Tower. Community Field, I cannot thank enough, Pete Leclerc is here. He was in Park and Rec, and if it was not for Pete Leclerc, you would not have the flagship park that we have in this city, Community Field, which is now transcended, which is our vision to get it to Scotts Tower. The library project, soon to be the new school at Peck. The community computer center, the senior center. New vehicles, we just got a picture of all the new vehicles coming into DPW, police, fire, how we worked with the fire department to get new vehicles at a better cost for the city. Streets, sidewalks, and those god-awful trees that we have to deal with all the time. Mm-hmm. And hopefully to see the Victory Theater come to its true fruition. To Brenna, the greatest gift a person can get is a child. You gave me 3 amazing children. I will never be able to thank you enough for that gift. I am truly grateful and deeply honored by what you have bestowed on me. We are truly blessed. I look forward to seeing our children grow in the future. I would also be remiss if I didn't say a special thank you to the following people who got me here throughout my life. the Topiers, the Tisdales, Sullivans, the Murphys, the Cravens, the Mortons, the Liberties, the Plassies, the Reedies, the Mainvilles, the Canes, the Leahys, the Miardis, the Keens, the Wilsons, Marcotts, Gary Rome, John Burnell, the Burnell family, the Driscolls, the Chevaliers, the Russo family, the Krokolowskis. Yeah, Jim, I butchered your name again. I am sorry. The Dunns, the DeLudes, the McCarthys, Jeremy Johnson, my longtime friend from law school, the McGiverns, Gary O'Sullivan, his family, the Fairs, the Dunn family, Kathy Dunn, Marty Dunn, Mayor Garcia, Rick and Norma Lee, the Olersics, the Kingans, the Reynolds family, the Wiggins, my family, the McGees, and last but definitely not least, Patty Devine, the Corshane family, Niles, Dora Corshane, and the Leclercs. Jeff, Tyler, Caitlin, Pete, Kelly, Graham. Thank you for everything that you have given me and my family. Your love, your support, your generosity. I can never repay it. Joe, you taught me one valuable lesson one morning on a baseball field. Don't blink, kid. They'll grow up and they'll be gone. I blinked. I still have a little time. My babies are getting bigger. They're getting older. And I made a promise. No one knows this. I made a promise. Brenna did all the work. I just stood there in the hospital, sobbing like I do now. She did all the phenomenal work. But when she finally got to sleep, I held them. I said, I'll be there. Tonight, Dad's going to keep his promise. I'm going to watch him grow up. That's my promise. Miles, Molly, Mac, I'm so proud of you. I love you. Dad's going to keep his promise tonight. I'll take a step back and focus on my babies. This year we celebrate 150-year anniversary. St. Patrick's Day is just around the corner. It's a very good weekend, a fabulous weekend. We have a lot going on before this year ends. So let us do our work, as we have always tried to do, in a manner that is best for the city as a whole. Let us work together to make this year one of the most memorable years in this city's history. I thank you all for everything you've done to me, or for me and my family. God bless you, and thank you, everyone. Thank you. There's items laid on the table. Committee on Ordinance, who has referred the resolution for the Puerto Rican Culture District within the city of Holyoke. Is that still laid on the table?
Yes.
It is, okay. Petition number 2 is for a zone change for BG to BH, 2203 Northampton Street. Lay on the table still, or?
Yes.
2201, 2201,
Mr. President,
2211. Yeah, Councilor Bartley.
can we, I don't want to do anything improper, but can we just take 2 off the table just for purposes of getting an update on that? Or do we not have any updates? Is that a
Do we
point?
have anything on that or not? All right, so motion is suspend the rules to allow legal to ask, answer questions. All those in favor?
Second.
All opposed? Mike?
Good evening.
Are there any updates on the petition for the zone change BG to BH at, it says 2203 Northampton Street, but it's really 2211, correct? Or
Mr. President?
2201,
Mr. President?
2211. Yep, Counselor Bartley.
Did you want me to, just through the chair to Mike, did you want me to just have a quick refresh as to what we were asking on this one? Or are you on top of it?
This is the Kmart Plaza, Counselor.
Just through
This
the
is
chair.
the
Yeah,
storage facility that had been previously discussed. And there's nothing new to report.
Oh, okay, thank
So
you.
just leave it on the table.
So,
President, if I could, before
Councilor
we
McGivern.
put it back on the table, through the law department or through the chair of the ordinance, is there not a time clock that's already started ticking because we closed the public hearing? I believe the planning board is.
Mr. President, we referred it to legal because we didn't know if it was in order that this zone change be requested by this individual. So no public hearing has been set up.
Thank you. My memory's clearer now.
but
Counselor
Sure
Bartley.
thing.
just, I think the finance chair raised a good point, though, because they filed the application for the petition. Now, we haven't accepted it yet, so I don't know, I don't want to sabotage them by my question. So I don't know if that's,
65 days from the date they receive, when we receive it. Yep, it's when the day we
okay,
receive it to
so,
open it.
so the finance chair is correct. So there is a clock that's ticking on this. So just as a refresher, so the question becomes, this gentleman does not own that parcel. I mean, that's irrefutable. No.
That's correct.
So the question becomes, can he petition the municipality for a zone change for a parcel in which he does not have any interest? I guess that's really the question. So with that, I'll just make a motion to put it back on the table.
Second.
Second.
So I missed that. I was getting a question answered. What was it, Counselor Bartley?
I just reiterated the question before the law department, and then we added the 65-day caveat, and I just made a motion to lay it back on the table.
Okay.
Second.
All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. 3,
Remain on the table.
man on the table.
Second.
Public, so it's just like on the table, there's no need to take it up. Public comment. We have one signed up. First one is Patricia Devine, 58 Magnolia, member. Make sure the microphone's on, full name, address, and then we'll go from there.
You'd think I'd know how to work a microphone. But first of all, I'd like to thank the city council because I know how hard you work and I know there's long hours. And having done it myself, it really is a blessing, even though sometimes it's hard. It's worth it that you're here and that you work hard. And I'd like to thank you on my behalf. So thank you very much. And as far as President McGee, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Todd, for your service to the city of Holyoke. One, as Chief of Staff for Representative Michael Kane. One, for Ward 6 City Councilor. One, for Ward 7 City Councilor. A very short time as mayor, which is still okay. And last but not least, thank you for being my friend and so many others. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you,
and if somebody could bring this up to Todd, it's a very expensive gift.
Under
Thank
50
you.
bucks.
I did take the conflicts of interest and passed it. It can't be
We're
over
under 50,
50,000.
right?
Under 50. Thank you, Patty. Thank you very much. Is there anyone online? No? Now, I know because we had the band and everything was a little crazy, is there anyone else who wanted to speak that missed the sign up? All right, so make a motion to suspend the rules to allow them to speak because of the band being in here. So
Motion to suspend the rules to let other speakers speak that missed out on signing.
all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So please come up to the mic, full name and address, and then we'll turn it over to you.
How you doing? My name is Orlando Rivera. I am a resident of Holyoke for the past 4.5 years. City of Holyoke, I've grown to love it. I work with several organizations, Neighbor to Neighbor, Hope for Holyoke Center, Wayfinders as well. I also volunteer with Tapestry, and I pick up needles in my neighborhood on my own accord. Me and Linda have been knocking on the a lot of doors, and we recently got a staircase closed that's been used for addiction for many, many years, a lot of overdoses. But the question I come here today for is for the auditing of the police department, and also to share an experience that I had with the police department, and it's one of the reasons why I oppose Shot Spotters, even though we didn't win, and now we're in bed with a company that is for profit and not for people. And it really hurts me that all that money is going to go to this machine rather than more important things that the police department needs. And the most important thing we need, and from my experience, is the relationship with our community. I live at 193 Chestnut Street, a brand new Wayfinders building. I did the ribbon opening there with acting Mayor Murphy at the time and several other bigwigs from Wayfinders. And Wayfinders has been good to me. I'm going to be very short and brief, but my building is full of cameras. And the incident, the police officers could not find where the incident was. They knocked on several doors in confusion with the security guard and everything. A building that's full of cameras all the way around. And immediately I was stereotyped because I had a wife beater on, I had a beard, and I was actually 60 pounds more on Father's Day, this past Father's Day. And because I fit the description of a man that could be beating up a woman, these officers decided to take full force and push their way through my door, pointing tasers at me in front of my children. And since then, I've suffered a lot of ordeals. I lost the mother of my children. And I've seen some improvement in the police presence in my neighborhood. I've seen some things, as far as the people I spoke to Maldonado Velez. He gave me an ear. Stephen Fay gave me an ear. I even had the mayor talk to me for a little while in the street when I was expressing my concerns. And I honestly believe that even though we have Shot Spotters, that we should also have some more better communication and better relationship with the police department, because it's getting out of hand. And you're going to pick somebody the wrong day at the wrong time, and it's just not right. And that's all I got.
Great, thank you.
I'm on Ward 2, by the way.
Next, I saw two other hands. And okay, then we have one on Zoom.
Hi, my name is Nancy Caper, and I live at 72 Congress Ave, Apartment 1L, Holyoke, Massachusetts. And I guess I just wanted to have a brief comment about the MRI report. I find it disturbing that the patrol detectives would pick out 3 city councilors as threats when one councilor was merely exercising their free speech protected under the First Amendment of the Constitution, the very document that those officers have sworn to follow in the execution of their jobs. Another person was referred to as a, quote, convicted felon, unquote, and it was suggested that his role as chair of the Public Safety Subcommittee is a threat to those police detectives. They were disregarding the fact that the counselor has served his time and is exercising his right to participate in the public life of this community. The third person is still in the process of his public protected rights of due process under the law.
Add a minute.
The law being the protections outlined in the Constitution. And I believe these counselors are owed an apology by the police detectives, and I believe that each one of these counselors equally, with no qualifications, is warranted that apology. Thanks.
Thank you. There's someone else. Go ahead.
Hi, Nathan Chung, 9 Prue Avenue, Apartment 4A, Holyoke. Am I allowed to comment on an item that will occur later, 16D?
Yeah, if it's on the agenda, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I did a little quick analysis using the state publicly available L3 data. It was a very quick analysis, forgive me if there are errors, but one thing I wanted to bring was the actual impact of this surcharge, which, if the surcharge reduction, if it goes from 1.5 to 0.5%, it's gonna result in a most likely loss of the only staff there, along with significant loss of funding. But the other impact, so this change was brought up mainly as a way to reduce the tax burden. But one thing to consider is CPA surcharge already has an exemption for the first $100,000 of the tax. And when you look at the rough math of it, if you have a property worth $200,000, the CPA surcharge is roughly 0.0141% of your property. And when you look at the L3 data, Holyoke, it says it has about it has code 100 residential. So residential properties are classified by the code 100 by the state law. And there's about 8,400 or 8,500 residential properties in Holyoke. And out of those, 1,200 properties have 1 minute? Okay, I'll be done. They have less than $100,000 in valuation. So 1,200 properties are already exempt, and 7,800 properties total, they pay less than $60 a year on the CPA surcharge. So that leaves about 667 properties that's paying more than $60 a year on the CPA surcharge, and their average burden is about $123. So with the reduction, if this goes through, they will get an $80 reduction, which is nice. But it's arguable that a substantial percentage of the Holyoke residents who own properties, they'll have minimal impact from this reduction. So, I think these impacts kind of gotta be considered before we try to push through this change. And I think if the goal is to have a property tax reduction, maybe a general rate reduction is a better way than trying to target a specific program, which will result in the loss of specific staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And no one else in chamber?
My name is Jesus Candelario. I own Jay's Bed and Breakfast in the city of Holyoke, the only bed and breakfast. And I just want to make, some of you may be aware, some people in the city may be aware, that the fire department is on a mission for businesses in the small business, medium-sized business, and all businesses in the city of Holyoke regarding permits, regarding making some of the businesses like mine kind of threaten to either close or just leave the city, period. One of the things that I own a bed and breakfast, and they're categorizing me as a discotheque bar. And I'm a bed and breakfast. The fire department says for the inspection, it says discotheque bar. I am not a discotheque bar. The other thing is you will see that I submitted some paperwork with a special permit and all that stuff. But there's not only me, but there's other businesses within the city, Log Cabin, Hamels, Delaney House, Brennan's, et cetera, that they're on a mission to do something. I have no idea, but these are vibrant businesses within the city of Holyoke that people that live here support the city of Holyoke, and everybody's gotten to know. So just be aware of that. Hopefully I come back to the next meeting and get a little bit more explanation from the city, the mayor's office, because he's got to step up and say something about that to talk to the fire department and see who's the boss in the city. Is it the fire department or city hall, city council, or who's in charge of the city? So just wanted to say that.
Thank you. We do have one online. John Rivera.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. John J.R. Rivera. I live on 125 Cabot Street, Holyoke, Massachusetts. Good evening, City Council. I will be addressing the audit on the Holyoke Police Department that was done. This racist, classist, and extremely biased report done by MRI Resources should be discarded, and a new audit should be done by an agency that is not biased. MRI Resources is full of former police officials. In plain sight, we hired O.J. Simpson to investigate O.J. Simpson. Mind you, we hired them to do a useless SWOT analysis that could be done by any intern from the 5 colleges nearby. All to conclude that cops need more money, which is not true. We need to build infrastructure that actually addresses the needs of our people, such as jobs with better wages, better education for our children, after school programs for our children, safer neighborhood investments, such as more lights, better parks, rent control, and lastly,
add a minute.
the disposal of all slumlords that are complete leeches to our city and its livelihood. In short, city councilors should call for a new audit on the police department, as this one is completely useless. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else online? Or? All right, so that is it for online and in the chamber. Next is communications. 4 is from the mayor, letter appointing Miss Jamie Morrow for the position of interim chief procurement officer. Said time will expire November 30th, 2025, so that would be to public service.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
5 is from the city solicitor, update on outside legal fees.
Mr. President?
Yep.
Can you just lay it on the table unless we want to send it right to finance? But I don't want to send it to finance, but I want to lay it on the table because I want to ask some questions for next meeting.
Okay, so
If that's
5
okay.
is to lay on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
6 is from the clerk and from our city admin, which is the minutes for February 21st.
Motion receive.
I'm second
Motion
that.
to receive and adopt. Unless there's any corrections, changes, anything? Nothing? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 7 is from Anthony DeLue, the Executive Director for Retirement Board, cost of living.
Motion receive.
Motion is to receive. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr.
Can we refer that to finance, Mr.
Would they be,
President?
yeah, I was wondering if they actually go to finance.
To
'Cause
finance?
that's going to require a vote of the city council. This is, just for everybody to be aware, if you haven't had a chance to review this.
Yeah.
This is to give our retirees an extra 2% COLA for 2023 retro back to January. It requires a vote of the retirement board, which they've approved, but it would also require a vote of the city council.
Motion receive and send to finance.
Second.
All right, to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
8 is the CDBG
DGR.
recommendations to DGNR. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
9 is Wisteria Hearst Foundation 2020 return exempt from income tax, so to finance.
With the chair's permission, can we send it to DGR? Do you mind?
Want to go to DGNR?
Okay, motion refer to DGR, please.
All right, to DGNR. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Oh, yep. Councilor Bacon?
I just said aye.
Yeah,
Oh,
said
okay.
aye.
Let's see. 10 is from Scott from the Holyoke Media, the annual report. Want to go to finance?
We actually had that in finance, but yes, a copy for the archives.
Archives.
Finance to
Motion
archive.
receive, send to finance.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 11 is Citizens of Holyoke petition. So that would be to
Public service, I think.
Public service.
service. All those in
I
favor?
have just a copy to the law department to advise us on any personnel issues
Second.
and what can be discussed or not discussed.
All right, so to public service with a copy to legal. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 12 is the Fire Commission minutes
Receive.
for January 18th, 2023. Motion is to receive. All those in favor? All opposed? 13 and 13 actually is a petition for a pole and wire location.
Motion
from
receive, set up a
Jessica-
public
Public
hearing.
hearing.
Motion is received, set up a
Second.
public hearing. All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
14 is a
Ordinance.
petition for a zone change at 1109 Dwight Street from R2 to BG. We also
ordinance.
suspend the rules, take up late file B.
Which, okay.
Second that.
So motion to suspend the rules, take up late file B.
B.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
This is for the same, but this is a special permit request. So just to give the council an understanding,
Mr. President?
he was told to do the zone change, but after further review, it's a special permit is what he needs. So take them both, package them together. It'll be a special permits request to
Just-
DGNR.
Just a brief point, Mr. Candelario is the title owner of that address.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, so take up 14 in late file B, sent to DGNR. All those in favor? All opposed?
Aye.
Send to What's
the DGNR, because it's a special permit.
Special permit instead of.
What happened is he filed it one way, but really the late file is the real way, so
So
we're
we're
not
not gonna
taking
do
it
the ordinance?
together.
Oh.
Because it has to be a special permit to DGNR.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So then what'll happen is the first one will just get
Thank you, Mr. President.
put away.
Fine,
Uh,
yeah.
Hopefully, is that clear to everyone?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me just catch up here. Give me a second. All right, so we're on reports of committees. 15 is ordinance. So 15A, Committee on Arts referred a request for additional handicap space at 204 Oak Street. Recommend it be adopted. I know Councilor Vacan's online, so is Councilor
Yes.
Jordan. Would you like me to sign your names to the jacket?
That would be fine, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so with that,
So on,
over to Councilor Vacan.
thank you. So on item 15A, it'll be motion to pass the first reading. And Disabilities Commission did not need to weigh in on this because they had already vetted the appropriateness for the need for the parking space. And so they indicated that it was up to the committee and the council to provide the additional space, should we find it warranted, because the other one is regularly filled with properly placard vehicles.
Okay, so
So we're recommending to approve it. So it'd be
Right.
motion to pass the first reading.
So motion is to pass the first reading. Under discussion, Councilor Jordan has his hand up.
Yes, Mr. President, because I'm unable to attend in person, can you please add my name to all the ordinance and finance committee reports for the evening?
All right, okay, perfect, I will, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else on Councilor Rivera?
Thank you, Mr. President. I voted in favor for this, and I'll vote in favor for this tonight too as well. But I kind of would like to probably have a conversation with either the Disabilities Commission or someone around to the fact of how many spaces can you actually apply for as one individual. Mostly because on some streets, they're tighter streets and there are not that many spaces available as it is. And if we're putting up 3 to 4 different handicap sign spaces, which I've noticed on different spots, they kind of end up taking up most of the streets, the parking on that strip. So I'm going to vote in favor for it. I'm not against it. I just want to know, like, if it's a smaller street and there's less capacity, are you still assigning 4 different handicap spaces to that one space? Because then the other residents that live in that neighborhood, what about them, I guess?
Yeah,
But-
you can always invite in the commission again to kind of go over those parameters, if you want to do that.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Councilor Givner.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this specific order is for a resident who's on a street and someone else who also has a handicap plate is using the spot that she applied for. So the assumption is that if there's another application, there's need. If there's always people parking in those handicap spots, it's considered to have need. So I would say, unfortunately, if there's more need for handicap, they're probably going to get more spots regardless because they have the need and they need the access. Thank you.
Councilor Anderson Burgos and Councilor McGivern.
So fortunately, I'm very versed in handicap parking spaces, and I will tell you this: it's illegal for anyone specific. You can have your license or your placard, you can have that, but you can't have that specific spot. So if there's another person, there is another need. So that's probably why this is the best route, just to save time and everything.
Councilor McGivern.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. President. I've always used the rule of thumb that if a residential handicap space should be for someone who lives in a neighborhood. Councilor Anderson Burgos is right. We used to put a placard number right on it. We no longer can. However, the handicap committee does screen this, and I know the ordinance committee does screen it. It's the idea to me is, and we've denied a few in the past, the idea is that if the person lives there, has a handicap placard, and they park on their street, particularly more specifically, overnight, then they're not taking up a space. They're taking up a specific space because of their need, but they're not taking up a space from the rest of their neighbors. We had one application where we learned that the purpose of the space was to unload the car, for example, when they came home with groceries, but they actually parked off street in the driveway in the garage. And we denied that one because that handicap space would have hurt the rest of the neighborhood. So hopefully these are being screened that way, but that's the way I've always voted.
All right, so motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading
Motion is passed the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
and motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the handicap space sign.
Did you pull a counselor to vote first?
Sorry, Counselor Tallman was the lucky winner. No
I hit the lottery. All right.
No money.
That doesn't happen often.
I'm leading
Call
off.
counselor.
Lead off hitter.
Tolman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan, Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Rumboletti,
Yes.
Coelho,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
We vote you approve that. 15B, Committee on Ordinances refer to special permit application for Carefully Curated LLC, 400 Ray Street, to operate a marijuana manufacturing establishment. Have a recommend that be granted with the following conditions: that the owner of the building always pay commercial property taxes, tax rate to the extent allowed by federal, state, local law for the duration of the permit. That the business retain a minimum of 30% of Hoyoke residents for non-security jobs. 3, that the hiring preference be given to security personnel who are retired Hoyoke police or retired members of another police department who now live in the city. There shall be no marijuana consumption allowed on site. That the hours of operation be set according to city ordinances. That 6, that the applicant must abide by Massachusetts general law guidances of the Cannabis Control Commission. 7, that the petitioner applicant shall confirm with the city and state health laws and rules. And 8, that if substantial progress has not occurred within 2 years of issuance of the special permit, an extension shall be required. Motion is to receive and
The motion
adopt.
is to receive and adopt the committee report and grant the special permit.
Under discussion, Counselor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this applicant came in, and some of my colleagues may recall that we had already approved a special permit, but following that approval, the property owner had requested that the applicant change their location. So they came in with essentially the same application, but of course with a different plan for security, which they did receive from the police department to properly address the change in address. And so this was a pretty straightforward update, and the committee recommends unanimously to approve it.
Anyone further? Seeing none, motion is receive, adopt, and grant the special permit. Clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting to grant it.
Tolman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Coelho,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera.
Yes.
12 yeas, 1 abstain.
Your vote, you approve that one. 15C, the Committee on Ordinances
Mr.
refer-
President,
Yep.
I'd like to offer a motion to suspend rules and take up C, D, E, and F as a package.
A second.
I won't argue. Motion to suspend the rules, take up C, D, E, and F as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So C is Committee on Ordinance was referred in order that no parking sign be placed, no parking Friday mornings adjacent and to the south of the entrance of 31 Beacon Ave. Recommended be adopted. D, command an ordinance to refer in order that the city engineer remove the sign at 97980 Hampton Street. Recommended be adopted. E, the command ordinance to refer that the city council and DPW amend any ordinances to allow road improvements on Whiting Farms Road, a left-hand turn for Kmart Plaza. Recommended be adopted. F, the command ordinance to refer that recently installed handicap sign at 363 Chestnut Street be removed. Recommended be adopted. So motion be receive, adopt. Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. So for 15C, this is a situation where there were some logistical issues. So this unique request has come through to allow necessary removal and emptying of a dumpster to take place. For 15D, just they are not needed. 15E, the engineer did go out and evaluate the area, and this, of course, will require action and other considerations relative to financing, but it was recommended that it be moved forward for that opportunity. And 15F was at the request of the original petitioner.
Any questions, comments? Councilor Bartley.
Just on 15E, I just want to thank the committee for their hard work and the engineer for his hard work. And at some point, I'll have a conversation with the finance chair and with the mayor about this. As the president knows, we had a few meetings over the summer, last summer, relative to what, we've got to find something with the Kmart Plaza, as president knows, and I hope most of the council is aware. That is thousands and thousands of square feet just lying there dormant with hundreds and hundreds of parking spaces on a very busy road, 1.1 miles from a major highway. I mean, I'm not getting it, but I'm not a real estate developer either. So our hope is that once we have somebody in place, somehow OPED is going to have to figure this out either alone or with maybe a professional commercial real estate broker. I really hope they consider engaging somebody who really knows that business, because there's got to be some kind of entities that want to engage that location, other than what we see on tabled item 2. So that's this would be I think a benefit, but this is just a preliminary step. That's all it is. So. Thank you.
Anyone further? Councilor Dahlman.
Yeah, I agree with Councilor Bartley on this issue. I mean, there's not a day that goes by that someone up in that area or some of my relatives that live up in Tokeniki in front of them that's saying, what are they going to do at Kmart? What are they going to do with that building? And half of the lot is beautiful. Half of that whole lot down past the liquor store, it's all paved, nice, stop and shop, all the businesses. The other part is just potholes and trees, no lines or anything. So I really encourage OPED to try to really work. I know there was a meeting, I think, last summer up there with Councilor Vacan and OPED, and
Yes.
It's important that they try to get something moving with that area. And I think this addition here will be good for that left-hand turn into that plaza. But I'm really looking forward to somebody to get developing up in that area. I think it's a great location, great spot, plenty of parking, and hopefully we'll get somebody in there soon.
Councilor Rivera.
So I agree with getting Kmart Plaza up and running. That would be totally awesome. I kind of wish we would try to hold some of the property owners accountable with regards to how the conditions are with half of the lot, right? Kmart Plaza doesn't own the part. The people that were at Kmart doesn't own the property. So it wasn't up to them to maintain it and keep it up to them. It's not up to D'Angelo's. It's not up to Denny's. It's not up to Burger King. It's up to the property owners. I drive through that on a daily basis. I have to go through potholes, and hopefully we can find out. Well, I don't know who the owners are, but I'll look into that and then maybe reach out to them and try to find out what the situation is there with that. But I'm gonna be voting no on this one because I drive by there every day on a regular basis, and I don't see how traffic is not going to get backed up. with regards to when you're coming down and when you're going up on both sides. I don't think it's a good idea, but at the end of the day, I voted yes that day to bring it to this level so that we can entertain it, so that the larger council can have their decision. I'm one vote. I'm going to vote no on it. It'll probably pass, and great and all that, but I do not think that it's going to be a good process, at least for the drivers that are in the future trying to cut through. Thank you.
Councillor Bartley.
Yeah, I obviously disagree with that last statement, but just through the chair to the chair, relative to the condition of the lot, that we do know who the owners are. We have contacted the Board of Health multiple times, and the Board of Health has fined them for litter and for other. That property owner owns the pad sites for D'Angelo's, Denny's, Taco Bell, Burger King, and I might be missing one, but that's how much of a footprint they possess. So the Board of Health has been on top of that over the course of time. The fire department has been on top of that over the course of time, as has the former building commissioner, relative to the condition of the lot, relative to the waste and debris that we see floating around there. So those are things that we're aware of. If anyone from the public wants to reach out to make a complaint, the process is to call the Board of Health. You can do it either online as well, and you can do it anonymously if you so desire, because we don't want to see any more litter. And the property owner, especially the management company, Mr. President, has been, in fact, very responsive when we reached out to them. So it's just a question of staying on top of it as best we can. Thank you.
Councillor Givner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just would like to echo what Councillor Rivera said, but I do appreciate Councillor Bartley's explanation of what's going on there with the pavement, because I also feel like the owner should be held accountable. And if we need to complain more, hopefully residents are listening to this and will file some complaints with the Board of Health. I do feel the same way about the turning into that area there. I think we spoke about it in our last meeting in ordinance, in public safety. But, I mean, we could also just close that off and people could just use Northampton Street. I mean, that would also be another way to deal with it. We kind of go back and forth with this section a lot, and it seems like it might be easier to just close it. Then it never has to be reconfigured. It never has to be looked at again. We can just close off that entrance and people can just use the entrances that are available. So that was just a little idea to share. Thanks.
Councillor Vacan was next.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to note for my fellow councilors that our engineer did go out to the area. He did evaluate it and found there to be adequate line of sight, that there was enough room to put in a dedicated lane for the left-hand turn. And the other points to note relative to this turn is that A, people are making a left-hand turn there on a regular basis, regardless of the signage. And B, that people otherwise are often making turnarounds at the fire station, which is another public safety hazard, as they realize they couldn't go in and then they turn around to come in and take the right. So on whole analysis, our city engineer did find this to be a reasonable solution to the situation. Thank you.
Councillor Givner, then Councillor Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just would like to note that, yes, the city engineer did give us a recommendation and found that there'd be room for a designated turning lane, and that with the current traffic as it is, that would be adequate. When asked about the traffic we hope to have in the Kmart Plaza, we were told that, you know, that section might have to be reconfigured or thought about differently. So again, I'd like to just propose that we just close that off. Then we don't have to deal with it at all.
Councillor Rivera.
And for me, I know years ago the council voted to switch it to the way it is now, and there's a variety of reasons and studies and data that went into that too as well. not to undermine the city engineer, because he does a lot of great work, but honestly, in reality, when you put a dedicated left lane coming from that right turn that you can always take a right turn on red, that dedicated left lane is short space. It's going to get packed fast. And yes, there are people taking illegal left turns now, but that means it minimizes the people that take the left turn. When you allow everyone to take the left turn, there's going to be a lot of people taking that left turn instead of going all the way straight down. So I could totally see the traffic backing up with regards to people trying to take that left turn in that extra special left lane. But again, I'm one vote. It'll pass. It's cool. It is what it is. I'll take the left turn. I live right there. I'll take it now. If it gets changed, oh well. Hopefully I don't crash. But at the end of the day, I don't actually feel like it's going to be safe. But that's why I'm going to vote no.
Councilor Anderson Burgos.
Yeah, so this one's a bit tricky. First of all, I worked at the Kmart Plaza for over 10 years, and I remember very close accidents because people illegally turning when they should not have. I also see the future being an issue. So if whatever's coming into the Kmart Plaza, where Kmart used to be, if it's something that's going to increase traffic, so allowing that left turn everything is going to be congested. I feel that Councilor Givner is on the right track and closing that off just to prevent any accidents at all.
Anyone further? With regards to this area, because I've been there quite some time, I remember it as a left-hand turn. And then they put in the row of strips, and that got wiped out by plows and everything, and other cars just hitting it. My view, just me personally, having known that area for quite some time, the left-hand turn allows for the flow of traffic and a little safer than what it is now, which is what you're seeing is illegal turns and then illegal turns up by the fire station, just causing problems. As far as what could happen in the future, what could go there, that would be, site plan review to come up with, maybe we shut that area down or whatever's going to go in there. But for now, to alleviate what's going on, that's why I'm just saying I'm a vote left, because I remember it as a left-hand turn. And when they did what they did over there, it only caused more problems. I think the left-hand turn allows us currently to deal with that. And then as whatever goes in there, we address it with site plan review and do that. I'm just, it's a history lesson. Anyone further? Seeing none, we took it up as a package, so why don't we take E out, just for.
So moved.
We'll do C, D, and F as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So this is the, I just want to make sure, no sign, remove a sign. So these are all ordinance, so pass the first reading, Councilor Bacon?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
And motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion that the passage be ordained. The clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for C, D, and F.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Remembaletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
unanimous vote.
By your vote, you approve that one. 15E, which is the Kmart Plaza, we just spoke about. Motion is to pass the first reading? Or, because this is just to allow for a left-hand turn.
Yes, we would have to update the ordinance, yes.
Okay, all right, so motion is passed first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye. And motion that the passage be ordained.
Motion that the passage be ordained. The clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 15E.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
No.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
No.
Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
11 yeas, 2 nays.
With your vote, you approve that one. Off to 15G.
Mr. President, I'm going to abstain from this vote.
Okay, Counselor Bartley's abstained from 15G. All right, with that, it's the ordinance, order a special permit extension for Victory Frost LLC 679 to 689 Main Street. Special permit originally granted August 4th, 2020 to operate a cannabis product cultivation, manufacturing, and dispensary. Recommend that the special permit be extended for 1 year to be granted. Under discussion, Counselor Bacon.
So the motion is to receive and adopt the committee report and grant the special permit extension for 1 year. And this applicant has made a lot of progress on the project, but they are in a situation of waiting for some final funding to come through. But it's on track, and it looks to be a fairly good development for the area, for those properties down there. And the committee was unanimous in voting to extend the special permit for 1 year.
Counselor Jordan.
Yes, Mr. President, I just had one question perhaps of the chair. Just for clarity's sake, I believe, and we discussed this in committee, all the current conditions will remain the same that were on the permit. We're just going to allow, and I believe the law department was recommended in favor of this as well, to grant 1 additional year to bring this to completion. That's the only change we're making in case, I don't know if we have to add that all current existing conditions.
Yeah, so we could say motion is to recommend the special permit be extended for 1 year with all provisions, all conditions remaining.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So with that, clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the 1 year extension with conditions.
Tolman,
He said yes.
okay,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley, Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
11 yeas, 1 abstain.
With your vote, you approve that one. 15H, special permit application amendment of Hoyoke 420 LLC, 380 Dwight Street. Let's see, to remove original condition prohibiting delivery, add suite number 4 for a new vault and location, amend our conditions so that they can be set according to city ordinances, have considered the same, recommend that the amendments to the special permit be granted. Counselor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the recommendation from the committee is to receive and adopt the committee report and grant the amendment to the special permit. But I do want to note some things. Due to an oversight on my part, I had not reviewed all of the documents for this particular application. I had just missed it in all the attachments. But my colleagues may remember that this is a business that was the subject of the complaint of the property owner who had not signed the original application for the special permit as is required. At the time of the public hearing for this amendment, the applicant stated that the owner supported the amendment and that he had attached information to that effect. I do feel in the interest of transparency that I should let council know that when I went back and looked at the documents, the application for the amendment to the special permit was again not signed by the owner. Now, it is true that during the public hearing, no one spoke in opposition to or in favor of this particular amendment to the application. And we all know that abutters are notified. If the property owner is not in a butter, maybe or maybe not notified. But I do think, I've been advised by our legal department that, we might have certain exposures when we are documenting our special permit approvals to be sure that we're covering, dotting all the i's and crossing all the t's on these special permits under state law and our ordinances. And because we had a specific complaint about the owner having not signed the special permit application, I'm only simply stating that I will not be voting for it. However, it's the will of the body, and it is a continuation or an amendment to a special permit that has already been granted. So I just wanted to note those things. Thank you.
Anyone further?
I had a question.
Counselor
Mr.
Jordan.
President. Yes, is it possible that we could table this to see if, or is it too late now because the public hearing is closed, that we have our assistant reach out to the owner to see if they would like to submit a letter in support, opposition, or just neutrality? They don't have a position one way or the other. It seems like that's as the owner of the property, it would seem to me that we would want to have their position on this one way or the other, or they just say we choose to abstain from it, we don't have an opinion one way or the other. I think that would be helpful for the record.
Why don't we suspend the rules, ask
So
Mike?
moved.
Legal, really. All those in
Second.
favor? All opposed?
Aye.
Mike, did you hear the question?
Yes, I did, Mr. President. Councilors may recall receiving correspondence from the building owner listing several outstanding complaints relative to this applicant. That led to some litigation. Excuse me. That led to some litigation in which the city was not a party, but did have some discovery requests served upon it. I'm happy to report that that matter has been amicably settled. The result of that has been this request to amend the existing special permit to comply with a few of the changes that were requested by the landlord, including no further sharing of the sally port, removal of signs, and adding a new vault. So I think what this reflects is not only the council changing the hours for retail, but it also reflects several of the matters that were in dispute before coming to a resolution. And now the retailer licensee is coming into you to seek a special permit amendment so that they can resolve this and comply with the landlord's standard. Hope that helps clarify.
Mr. President.
Counselor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension to Attorney Bissonnette. So do we have any exposure by the fact that part of the complaint was that the special permit application had not been signed by the property owner? Do you feel that in this context, that is not a problem?
I share concerns where the property owner isn't advised that a tenant is making substantial changes. We saw that as a problem in this case early on. I think these changes are a direct result of those concerns. So I would have to say in this instance,
okay,
the landlord knows what's happening and agrees with it.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Rivera.
Under those
Certainly.
conditions, I can support it. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if we could just make an amendment to vote on it with the conditions of them getting a signature from the property manager or the property owner. Like we vote on it and it only goes through if they get the signature. If they don't get the signature, it won't go through. Or it doesn't matter.
I think based on what legal.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean,
okay.
Yeah,
It's okay to
if it doesn't matter, then let's do it.
Okay.
Seeing no one further, so the motion is to grant the special permit with amendments. Clerk will call a roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for that.
Hellman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez, McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera.
Yes.
11 yeas, 1 abstain.
Will your vote approve that one? 15I, committee on ordinance to refer in order to put a signs at Lyman Terrace neighborhood stating resident parking only. Recommend that refer to the Holyoke Housing Authority. Counselor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. In this situation, it was a little bit complicated, but when our engineer looked at the situation and understood what the question was, it is really in the jurisdiction of the Housing Authority to address it, and that is why we're recommending to refer this over to them.
Anyone further? Counselor Tallman.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'm glad that this was taken up about 2 years ago. A couple of the residents, I think I was over there for their rec room or something, an open house, and they had talked about, some of the residents, about trying to find parking because it was difficult. So I'm glad this is hopefully it'll get resolved where the Housing Authority will move on that to try to get residents some parking, the ones that need it in that area. And I'll be happy to contact, Matt Manville about this to see if they can get this moving for the people that need parking over in that area.
Anyone further? Seeing no one, motion is that referred over to the Holyoke Housing Authority. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
J is.
Mr. President?
Yep.
Under suspension of rules, could we take up J, K, L, M, and N as a package?
Second.
Okay, once again, I won't argue. Motion to suspend rules, take them up as a package. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Aye.
All right, referred, J is speed humps on Hillside Ave. Engineer report not install, temporary ones. K is speed humps on Moss Ave, report not install, temporary ones. L is speed humps, Moss Ave as well. Do not recommend temporary speed humps. Speed humps at Memorial Drive, engineer report not to install temporary speed humps. N is speed humps at Fenton Street, recommended not to install temporary. And that is it.
So, thank you, Mr. President. So, a number of these had been reviewed previously, and they were taken up and then sent back to committee. We were in a period of transition with our city engineers, and so it was requested of our new engineer to take a look at the data collection if it was there, to complete it if it wasn't, and then to just do a review and come back after a fresh look. And so our engineer gave us a very thorough report, and he shared with the committee the variety of measures that are used to determine whether they're warranted or not. And I guess a bit of a simplistic way to say it is they evaluate the area to see if the problem is high enough on the speed level that the speed humps would actually create a correction to a problem that would be significant enough to provide an improvement to safety. But it's a little bit, there's more to it than that, but that's sort of the overall look. And so he tried to take a look at all these various situations through a consistent view, by which in this situation and looking to the future, there would be a consistency brought to the evaluation of these speed hump requests. Because as we all know, we respond to these petitions by citizens who have a concern of traffic and speeding in their neighborhoods. So he went through each of these and gave us a graph, a sheet and a visual so that we could see how they laid out with the measurements and how he based his recommendations. And based on that thorough report, as far as these listed in this package were concerned, the committee did agree with the recommendation of the engineer.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, just the President, the ordinance chair, thank you. That was me who kind of kicked this back to the ordinance and, Business Committee and the whole board. And I asked, and the ordinance chair was gracious enough to take this up again, but I really do appreciate the summation. I also appreciate the diligence by the city engineer. These are all Ward 3, and these are all constituents that I serve. And sometimes, sometimes the answer is going to be no, Mr. President, and that's the way I voted. I think 100% consistently is that if the city engineer gives a recommendation, I'm not a civil engineer, so if the city engineer gives a recommendation, then my vote is based upon, unless it's off the wall, but I haven't really seen it. So it's, and what the ordinance chair summarized, you heard, the city engineer put it into really, it's comprehensive, and yet it's very readable and understandable, that the table that's put together. So the data is there. The last point, Mr. President, is not to say that citizens cannot bring this up again. The snapshot reviewed by the engineer is just that. It's a 1-week time period. If residents of a particular street are game for it and they want to get the 2/3, and I appreciate Kevin correcting me the last time. He was very kind the way he did it too. So I made a couple of I should never go on memory, which most lawyers don't, but that's why they write down the laws, Todd. But I was going on memory, but Kevin corrected me a couple of times, and he was right, and I was wrong. But the 2/3 of the street, the 2/3 of the within the perimeter that's being covered is basically their criteria. And if they want to come back, and if they want to have the city engineer look at another snapshot, then we will happily file those again through my name for further review. So I just want to again express my gratitude to all of the above, and we'll take it from there.
Anyone further? Seeing none, so motion is that we not accept the installation of temporary speed humps. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 15.
Mr. President?
Yes.
OP and Q.
If, under suspension of rules, if we could take up items O, P, and Q as a package?
A motion to suspend rules, take up O, P, and Q as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
O is speed hump petition for McIntosh Terrace. Engineer report to proceed with temporary speed humps. P is speed humps at McIntosh Terrace. Engineer to proceed with the installation, so same thing. And then Q is...
I believe P and Q are the same, Mr.
Yeah.
President.
They're refiled.
I think
so-
maybe they were filed on 2 separate occasions, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so there has a package. So motion is to receive, adopt, and proceed with the installation of temporary speed humps. Under discussion.
Yes, and so in this case, the findings of the study came out differently for this particular street when compared to the others. And it is noted that it is worth moving forward with the temporary speed humps to see if they do accomplish the desired improvement in speed.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, again, Mr. President, this is Ward 3. This is the street that borders the south side of Crozier Field. I think most of us are familiar with that. The city engineer also brought up 2 other points that are worth repeating. The proximity to a public park is part of the criteria that he looks at, and also the proximity to a school. And as most of us that live in that area realize, it is just like the other streets for Moss Memorial and Fenton, they're cut throughs to HCC. This is a cut through from South Street to Northampton Street, and just it gets a lot of volume and a lot of speeding. And the hope is that once these temporary humps, things are installed, and then they'll turn into permanent ones, and that'll have a positive effect. I think overall, hopefully the president agrees, when they have been installed, whether it's Vermont Ave or Michigan Ave or Lawler Street, whatever, they generally have the desired effect. And I thought I would get complaints about them after they're installed, especially when plows go over, but I haven't received one in my career, in my tenure on this board. So quite the contrary, the public is grateful once they're installed, and they seem to have the desired effect of slowing down traffic. So we'll see how this goes for McIntosh Terrace. Thank you.
Councilor
Mr.
Tom.
President?
Councilor Tom and then Councilor Vacan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, just very briefly to the chair of ordinance committee through the president. Was there a mention in that about Bemis Road? I know I thought I saw something about that about putting the temporary speed humps because I think we were waiting for them up in Bemis. I know.
So I was just going to.
Okay, Councilor Vacan.
Oh, if I can.
Right.
But through the president to Councilor Tomlin.
Yes.
I was just going to add that in the meeting, our engineer affirmed that the temporary speed humps that had been approved about a year ago for Upland would be going in this soon. And that after that, the temporary speed humps would go to McIntosh. And Bemis is further down the road, I think because of some other projects that might be taking place there, but it is still on his list and he is aware of the need for the speed humps there.
Yeah, Bemis had two issues to remind people. One is how many in the location.
Locations,
there was
yeah.
5 at one point, then it was dwindled to maybe 3. The other issue is there's supposed to be a resurfacing going on up there, so they didn't want to put them in and have to take them out if there was a resurfacing. So I think there's like a two-prong issue.
Yeah, I agree. I did talk to a couple of the residents up there recently. They asked about that. And I thought about 2 or 3 years ago, they said within 5 years they may resurface Bemis, but I'll contact the DPW again on that because it is also a cut-through street from Northampton to East Hampton Road. It's also right next to a park. And there's more, as time goes on, there's more children that live up in that area. So a couple of the neighbors had contacted me about when we're going to get the temporaries and then possibly the permanent ones because it definitely, there are some people, actually one of the residents asked me if I can put in for a truck exclusion because he said it was a tractor trailers sometimes go down Bemis taking shortcuts. I guess and I'd never really seen them, but that's the cause of some of the big potholes on the upper part of Bemis. I said, how does a tractor trailer get under that bridge, 91 bridge? And I guess it's a height where a tractor trailer could get under that bridge. I didn't think it was it would fit under there, but apparently it can. So I'll follow up with the because I thought it was mentioned during a meeting or I saw it read somewhere that talked about Bemis Road. So I'll follow up with the DPW on that issue. Thank you.
Anyone further? So motion is this that these are approved. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 15R, it's a no parking sign be placed in front of 5 Whiting Ave. Recommend it's been complied with. Councilor Vacan.
Yes. Our engineer came in and apparently this was already in ordinance. And so it was simply a matter of having to put the sign up, which they did. So we can check that one off. Thank you.
So motion has been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that takes care
And
of
I
that.
just want to thank the ordinance committee. We got a lot done that night.
Good job.
Good job by everybody. 16A, Committee on Finance. Council hereby accept the provisions of the fiscal year 2023 State 911 Department grant, $18,375, no match. Motion to receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee did meet with the chief of police, and we discussed this grant. As you stated, no match. With the fire chief, but with the what we're doing with this grant, or what the fire department is doing with this grant, is it's an offset to some reimbursement expenses that are related to the Cataldo ambulance fee contract itself. It makes sense. It's a grant that just helped them reimburse city expenses towards keeping the ambulance company in the city. Committee recommends that we adopt the the request to receive the grant and set up a fund.
Anyone further? Motion is passed first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the grant.
Hellman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes. Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
With your vote, approve that one. 16B, Command and Finance, 15,000 from pay sealer weights and measures to in-state travel, equipment, office supplies for a total of 15,000. Recommend it be adopted. Motion be receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee met with our new sealer and weights measure, Marcus Grabelli. Marcus, despite reaching out to, I think, a lot of city councilors about going quicker on the agenda, had a very informative night and was about 3/4 of the way through the Finance Committee agenda. But he was well-spoken, well knowledgeable of his job, and appreciative of the transfer request. Most important, this job, I think, is sometimes underrated to a degree of how important it is, whether it be at Stop and Shop, any grocery store, Scales, whether it be a gas station, whether it be collaboration of a number of different things. The sealer of weights and measures is responsible for going out in the community and making sure our vendors, our tools that our vendors are using are collaborated and working properly. As it states, the money will come from the salary because this position has been vacant for some time. The in-state travel is for educational purposes and conferences that meetings that he has to attend on the state level. The equipment and supplies are a number of different items, including the new equipment necessary for the work that needs to be done with the cannabis industry itself, in particular with the manufacturing of cannabis and the making sure that their equipment is calibrated and properly working. The committee, after meeting with Marcus, recommends unanimously that we adopt this request.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, this is, I can't agree anymore with the finance chair. This is a position that basically pays for itself. I did want to ask a question through the chair to the chair. Joe, just on item 39, because that is a financial transfer, part of that's to weights and measures. So I don't want to mess up your report, but I just wanted to get it, since we're on the topic, I just want to get a basic understanding as to what that one is concerning, please.
Thank you, Councilor Bartley, through the chair. I haven't had a chance to really look at the incoming. I just was going to recommend that we send them to committee. The auditor did reach out to me, and there's actually two different items that inadvertently got placed together that we may want to separate, we may not, but we can have the discussion in the Finance Committee. But I cannot answer your question because I really don't know the part about the weights and measures, what it's going to be used for.
So just to answer it, so it's a Commonwealth of Massachusetts Division of Standards. Looks like a bill of 18,000. Or actually, it says credit payments, but 18,000, yeah, or charges that are due. So remember, when we didn't have weights and measures, we had to pay the state.
Right.
They were covering it. So that might be what this is, based on what I have in front of me. We'll find out more in finance.
Thank you.
And if I could, Mr. President, thank you, because not only do we have to pay the state, but we get to invoice the people for which this particular position performs their duties for the city. The state was not invoicing anybody; they were just doing the job, and we weren't collecting any revenue that we're entitled to. So not only by and you have to give a lot of credit to Mayor Garcia, not only by filling the position does it take care of a very important need, but we also now collect revenue that helps offset the salary and the operational costs of the position.
Well, not only do we do that, but we make, by having this position, now why this position was closed down, well, that was several mayors ago. That decision was never really made clear to us, and then it just got farmed out to the state. And I'm glad the Commonwealth stepped up, but as several of us here, we had multiple meetings over hours relative to figuring out, we had people from out of town come in to try to help us. And then I think, Acting Mayor Murphy and now full-time Mayor Garcia got their arms around this, and now we've got somebody in place. And so not only we're going to be billing people properly, it's going to be helping businesses, your Stop and Shops, your gas stations, your bodegas, your marijuana facilities run more efficiently and be compliant. So I think this is a win. So congratulations to all.
So, Councilor Tallman.
I'll be brief. I agree. Great job, Chairman of Finance. This guy came in here and it was amazing. The way he was talking, I mean, he's fired up. I mean, and he's already training with people up in Northampton and Chicopee, Westfield, collaborating with people, and basically stated before the meeting, they said, we need some funding to get this department up and going from the ground up, and that's what they're doing now with this transfer and for the next meeting, hopefully. But a very important position and very good person. The mayor got a great applicant, great person to take this job and move with it. So I'm really appreciative of the mayor for the work he did with this.
So motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is to pass the second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 16B.
Almond,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve that one. 16C, Committee on Finance is hereby referred $200 from clothing allowance to education and training. Recommended be adopted. Motion be receive, adopt, pass first reading. Councilman McGivern.
Mr. President, this is a request for the purpose of there is a surplus identified in the clothing allowance of the DPW budget, forestry budget to be more specific, and requested the department to transfer $200 into education and training. This will be used for 2 employees to attend a pesticide class related to their employment itself. Councilor Bartley made a good point at the meeting when we received this. Why are we voting on $200? It's not so much the $200, but the fact that each of these items are in different classifications, and by state law, we're required to vote on them. If they're in the same classification, the department head and mayor could sign off on it.
All right, so motion is to pass the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the $200.
Tolman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Puello,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
Yes.
Jenny Rivera.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve that one. 16D.
You could suspend the rules, Mr. President, and take 16D, 16E, and 16I as a package for discussion. We then could separate out 16D and take a separate vote on that, with 16E and E would just be complied with.
I'll
Right.
second that.
So motion to suspend rules, take up D, E, and I as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? E is Committee on Finance referred in order to the mayor. Historical preservations relating to repairs, requested by Councilor Jordan, Bartley. This is recommended that be complied with. I is inviting the CPA members to give an update on the program, complied with. And then D is Committee on Finance was referred in order that the city solicitor draft a ballot question for the next eligible election for voters to decide if the CPA tax should be reduced from 1.5 to 0.5. And then this is recommended be amended to 1%. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to start by expressing gratitude to the CPA committee itself. A special gratitude for Megan McGrath-Smith, who was with us at the Finance Committee meeting and did a tremendous presentation on both the historical recap of what the committee has done since 3 and 4 years ago, now that the voters of this city voted to allow the CPA tax to exist, and thus the city was able to use not just that money that comes in, but we're also connected to money through the state level through the Registry of Deeds fees themselves. She did a tremendous job, and I'll just recap some of the stuff she did. The reason 16E is complied with, we did receive the list, not only of the need for historical repairs, but we also received a list of the projects that Megan went over with. She did a tremendous job of explaining, and then we also did a good discussion about what is the separate vote which we should take this evening, which is 16D, which is the request for the ballot question. Just real quickly, just highlighting some of the projects that CPA has been involved with and some of the needs. There are 3 different categories for CPA. You go into historic preservation projects, open space that's combined with recreation and affordable housing. And they have a set of criteria for each of these. They work closely with the Historical Commission for Historical Preservation projects. They work closely with a number of city departments, including conservation with the open space and parks and rec with the recreation projects and affordable housing. I'll start and work backwards with affordable housing. 3 very good projects they've been involved with. One is the Chestnut to Valley Opportunity building itself on Chestnut Street. 2, the Habitat for Humanity, 2 houses on Jackson Street, $120,000. And the Wayfinders project, which I think we're all very impressed with, which is otherwise known as Library Commons. Some of the open space was Glutek Woods land acquisition and trail development, the Scott Tower Anniversary Hill land acquisition, and the Skinamic phase. They're in the second phase, which is about to go into leave the design phase and go into the final project implementation phase itself. Recreation, some great programs: Boys and Girls Club Playground, Mayor Field Improvements Track, Community Field Toddler Park, plaque for the Miriam Miranda at Eli Field, and the Miracle League fully accessible playground, which I mean that's one of my favorites when it comes to looking and helping with handicapped children to play sports on a level that's normal, and it makes so much sense what the Miracle League people do. Historical preservation projects, I think we know most of them by heart, including this building, the stained glass windows, the exterior, which is one of the nicest looking buildings on High Street, newer exterior looks is the Valley Opportunity Council, Smithsbury Cemetery, City Hall Annex Lantern Restoration, the Mysterious Museum Electrical Upgrade Project, the Lady Liberty at the War Memorial Park, the JFK Memorial Restoration, Pulaski Park Restoration, Fire Department, Historic MAC, truck restoration itself. That truck is part of the history of Holyoke, and it is used for educational purposes, especially for our children. War Memorial exterior cleaning at the MIFA project, the murals, which I believe this week there's going to be a little presentation of some of those restored murals. The Wisteria Heart Museum repainting, Wisteria Museum repainting, the Girls Incorporated Masonry project. As we got into the conversation with Megan, she went into a lot of detail of those categories and how they work and the numbers. They're required to spend so much. If they don't spend it, they have to, on a particular category, they do have to encumber it and carry it over and look to spend it in future phases of their the work that they do. They talked about a number of different things, but she got into the request for the question, and there's one cost that they're allowed, and that's an administrative percentage of the money that is collected. And she linked, with what we've been doing with the 1.5% tax itself, and the amount of money that has been brought into the community, both by the tax and by those fees from the Registry of Deeds. The administrative costs has allowed them to keep a staff person that works with them directly, and she highlighted the amount of work that staff person worked. She cautioned the committee that if you look and go too low on the percentage of what brings it in, it changes the whole formula for the categories and the amount of money for administrative costs themselves, and could actually put them out of the ability to be able to pay for a staff person to do the work that they're all so much involved in. And it's just it's something I think we have to think about, and something that I think if the ballot does go in some form to the voters, that they need to think about. I think I've covered most of Megan's presentation. And those are the two orders that would be complied with. We then went into our own discussion on Councilor Vacan's order and Councilor Pueblo's order about a ballot question coming up in November. We note that it's the 5th year of the CPA program itself, and we discussed putting a very simple, and the reason that for any ballot question has to be simple. It should be open-ended. It should not imply one way or the other that a voter should take their position. However, there also should be components of education for both the yes and the no of any ballot question. Megan, I think's presentation, and I think the CPA will continue to highlight, the reasons that either the 1.5% or in the case of what we're about to recommend would make sense, and that the 0.5% would be a detriment to doing anything in future years. So what the committee came up with is just a very simple question. We did refer it to the law department to put it in legal form, and I caution it's not legal form, but to make sure it's correct form, an appropriate form to go on the ballot, which would work with the city clerk, which would work with the state to approve it. Our recommendation is that we would not be in favor of the 0.5%, but we would consider, instead of a 1.5%, allowing the voters to choose a 1.0%. On a personal note, I think the 1.5% makes a lot more sense in terms of what can be done with these dollars, and I think everybody that I've talked to is very much in favor or very much delighted about the number of good projects that have come through this, which I think to a single family home, we're talking about $38 in addition to their property tax itself. But we do believe with the spirit of the makers of this order that the voters should always have a choice, and we just recommend that if we do put a ballot on the question, that it would be that we change it from 1.5, allow the voters to choose from 1.5 to 1.0. Sorry for the long report, but it was a great discussion, and I think it's important to everyone to understand all the sides of it.
Thank you. Anyone further? Councilor Rivera.
I would just like to I obviously echo a lot of what Councilor McGivern said. He went through a lot of the projects that have come to fruition, or if not, are through the pipeline right now. But one of the main things that I've been on the CPA, I want to say like 4 or 5 years now almost. I think one of the main things that sticks out to me about the CPA is the opportunity to fix parks and open space in parts of the community that do not fall under the CDBG encatchment zone. For example, Merrifield, we worked tirelessly to get Merrifield up to the date it is now, right? And there's still some money left over, so we might be improving. Well, not we, but the Parks and Rec might be able to improve the diamond in some of the fields. There's right now a process of trying to get Jones Point redone too as well. And then as the years go on, hopefully the idea would be to continue going after the parks that do not fall in the CDBG zone. Some of the councilors have seen over the years, a variety of parks in the flats in South Holyoke, the Sargent Street area, they get remodeled, and they get remodeled on a various different times throughout my years of living in Holyoke, I would say. But when you look at Merrifield, Jones Point, Glow Tech, they don't get the same attention. CPA is the mechanism for that. And I understand some of us wanting to, how do you say it, mitigate some of the issues with regards to rising inflation and all the other stuff. But if we either bring the prices down with regards to this or do away with it altogether, which is not on the table, how then would we be able to improve the parks that are not in the CDBG and catchment zone? Because as a city, we don't have the money or the funds to be able to invest $200,000 to $300,000 just to remodel a park. So for people voting tonight, I would like people to really keep that in mind. We're possibly gonna be able to get Scotts Tower back, right? This is CPA. We probably would not be able to do that without CPA. But yeah, just wanted to make some of those points. Thank you.
Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I just want to articulate sort of the other side of the coin, I guess, on this matter. And I don't think there's any of us saying that the projects that have been done are negative. I think people have found many of the projects to be very good. The problem that they're having is that everything is going up. And so every time one particular item comes up and we say, oh, that is just $40 more, that is just $100 more, they're already getting that for their food, their gas, their utilities, their rent, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just one thing after another. Now, this CPA is an additional tax that could have been approved in two ways. One, by the citizens petitioning to add CPA on the ballot. In our situation, the city council chose to drive the ballot initiative. And I think it's a rather odd situation that because it started one way, it then can only continue to be done that way. But nonetheless, in this particular law, because the city council was the initiator of the ballot question, the city council also has to be the initiator for any subsequent changes to the CPA. So my advocacy for this is on behalf of the many constituents who have come to me under the burden of, in many cases, they're already paid for homes that are costing them so much money to keep, along with their cost of living, their medications, et cetera, that they are getting priced out of their paid for home, to do whatever we can to lessen a burden, particularly one that is a voluntary and added tax. So I think just out of the argument for fairness, the voters should be able to vote on this matter. While I personally feel that administrative costs of the CPA could be borne by other committees if it was lowered to the 0.5% in these terrible financial times for many in our city. I do understand the thinking of the committee, and I'm open to looking at the 1%. I think it makes, just less, again, any help to the citizens, but something, I believe, is better than nothing. And I would also say that there are many people in the city who are paying thousands of dollars in property taxes to support the city government, and they feel like they are paying a lot of money already, and in many cases for very limited city services. So I think we need to be sensitive to the people that are paying for the budget in our city, and also think about it's not only the CPA by which this could be accomplished, it is also the matter of being effective, efficient, and using the taxpayers' money very wisely within our whole larger city budget. So thank you for your consideration of this order. And I hope everyone certainly agrees that taxpayers should have a say on the CPA. Thank you.
Councilor Murphy-Ramboletti.
Thank you. So just first, I mean, I watched the finance meeting, and I just will echo what others have said about the impact of what we've been able to do with the CPA funds, and thank the CPA committee members for all their work as volunteers. I actually wish that we could just put on the ballot, do you want to just are you still good with a 1.5% surcharge, and see if the voters vote for that? Because as an at-large counselor, I've been contacted by folks on both sides of the aisle, so it's not overwhelmingly one or the other. I have people who, represent taxpayers, and I don't even like using that term because, renters pay tax too, but just in a different way. So anyway, I just have a clarifying question, and actually maybe this would just be good for the public to better understand. So if we vote for this tonight, we vote in favor of the ballot question, what happens next? Does the law department create the language? Do we have to vote on the language? Just what does that process look like for those who are not totally familiar?
Councilor Burger, did you have the legal department come up?
We've already had, if I could, through the
Yep.
chair. It's a good question. I was going to wait until we came to, like I said, we should separate the votes. We did refer to the law department just to put it, I said legal form, which is probably stretching it, but appropriate form, that we should always know the exact wording of a ballot question. Obviously, I'm guessing it's not back yet.
No.
So I think, I wanted to make the report on the complied orders this evening, and if we don't have the actual wording back, we could probably hold off on the vote for the ballot question until we get it.
So it hasn't come yet to have you look at it to vote on it is the answer.
Okay.
Next was Councilor Anderson Burgos.
So while I was in committee, I did vote this out of committee, but I will be voting, my vote will be a no, for quite a few reasons. Well, first of all, I haven't received a call or an email with any constituent regarding the CPA at all. But I do look at the CPA, and I've seen all the improvements that they've done through the community for our city, for Holyoke. And when I look at that, I think about not just my constituents, but the city as a whole. And these are people who are benefiting from the CPA. We all are benefiting from the CPA, excuse me. That I wanted to make that note. We are all benefiting from it. So historically, voter turnout, especially come this November, historically, it's been low. And I just mentioned that the CPA impacts the entire community. So I think if this should go to a vote, then it should be next year, where the voter turnout will be higher. So therefore, there won't be such a negative impact, if you will, or fair, let's just say fair, a fair impact on this decision. I think with that said, and I know that, some counselors may not agree, and that's fine, right? We all have our opinions. But we should really do the constituents a favor and allow them that fair chance of voting next year if this should show up. That's all. Thanks.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. President and my colleagues. A couple of points I'd like to make. One is I would encourage the law department to pick the exact same wording as they did when it was originally went through. Just change the numbers from 1.5 to 1. It's very prescriptive, really, what the language is supposed to be, and I'm sure they'll do a fine job in making it very neutral as they did the first time through. So I would encourage that same type of very neutral approach that they did the first time. A couple of points I'd like to share. One is, this was rather controversial 5 years or so ago when we put this on the ballot the first time. I had a number of people who said, I'd really like to have an opportunity to vote on this and to do that. And my general default position on letting the public vote is let them vote. This is their city. It's not our city on these type of big things to just dictate to them. On the other hand, I had a lot of constituents who were not supportive of the CPA at all. And they weren't happy with me because I ultimately voted with the pro-CPA group to put it on the ballot. But I feel that was the right vote because ultimately it's the people's decision as to how they want to vote. And it was a relatively close vote. I think something in the order of like maybe 55-45 in favor of doing this. And for the same reasons, I will again vote to put it on the ballot because the public has a right to have their say. And in this case, when you put this in context, there's really good arguments on both sides, but I think it's really for the people to weigh the pros and cons of this. But, even worst case scenario for the pro CPA group, you're talking about a $250,000 potential reduction in this. And I'll just address a couple of points. One, I've been very impressed with the CPA committee. I think they're very thorough. I think they've picked a lot of great projects. The only warning I have given to the group thus far, for my 2 cents, is not giving money away to private organizations. Not until we have all of the important work of public projects that need to be done, like parks and things. The things that concern me is when I see, $100,000 giveaways to private organizations. That's not a bill that would otherwise be an expense of the city of Holyoke. And when I see things like walls falling down at Wisteria-Hearst, and I see all the other multitude of projects that need to do throughout the city, how are we in a position to give that kind of money away? So that would be my only concern. But other than that, all the other things have been extremely noble. So they have a very strong case to make as to why it should continue. On the other hand, there's a number of my constituents who have said to me, you know what? I already give you $60 million. Why do you need another $800,000 on top of that? And if you're not spending with efficiency and the 98.5% of the budget that I'm already paying property tax on, why do you need this other 1.5%? Spend the 60 million the right way. And that's where the money should be coming from. You'll hear those arguments from some people in town. So, really, what's 250,000 out of $60.8 million? I mean, you do the math on the decimal point on that. It's pretty de minimis, but it's symbolic, and I'm sure the pro and the anti sides of both of that reduction will certainly have their say. But ultimately, it's up to them, for the people to have that decision. As far as the election goes, I'll only say this. I have, with all due respect, I heard this argument in finance. I have no problem whatsoever having this in this year's election. Number one point, if there's enough people that show up that are good enough to vote us in and have the responsibility on the other 99.5% of They certainly have enough gravitas and enough critical mass of voters to vote on the 0.005% of them. So, like I said, if we entrust the people to elect the school committee and city council this November, I don't have any problem in the 2023 election to give them the power to have the say over this question. So having said all those, I would encourage a yes vote and let the people decide, just as we did 5 years ago. Thank you.
Councilor Rivera.
Thank you. Just a couple points I kind of wanted to clear up. So with regards to the loss, looking at it like just being a mere $250,000, that is not necessarily true. As Councilor McGivern mentioned earlier in his report, that when you change how much money they're bringing in, the formula of how much money they get back from the state changes. So at the end of the day, it won't just be $250,000 that you lose. You also won't also get the same amount of money that you normally get on a regular basis. So you'll also lose a significant amount of other dollars that is given to you from the state as well. So it'd be 250 plus whatever it is the formula changes that you're going to lose on top of that. So it's more than just $250,000, more or less, right? Then the other piece is when we're paying this extra tax, because it's true, it is an extra tax. And I agree, like, we're already paying significant amount of taxes, and some constituents do feel that they're not getting the services that they should be getting with what they've paid so far. But as we've seen with CPA, and most of the counselors have, actually all the counselors have agreed, that's not the same case with CPA, right? The money is being well spent. The money is being spent in ways that are visceral, that are tangible, and that you can see them, right? So at the end of the day, to say that the burden of this extra tax is not actually providing them the service that that they don't necessarily get, that's not fair to say that. And the other piece is, when the money goes into the general budget and we use general budget dollars, we already know what happens with that, right? A lot of it gets chewed up with regards to at the end of the year, we have to balance our budget still, right? We don't have extra funds on a regular basis. A variety of counselors make point to say that all the time. So for us to be able to use the budget that we have effectively and efficiently, we're years away from that right now, when we're working on creating audits and going through the processes so that we could put things in the in mechanisms in place, so that way we can rectify a lot of the issues that have gone on for the last 24 to 30 years, first of all, right? So it's nice to say these things, but in hindsight, or in reality, it's not necessarily true, I would say. But then the other piece is that, to my understanding, we can go up to 3%, right, for the tax for CPA. I would like to see on the question to go up too. If you're going to put the question to go down, then you would have to put also to go up at the same time, so you could keep it neutral and keep it fair for the voters that are out there. You can't just go ahead and present numbers that are only going down, because then that would be biased. You'd have to present numbers that go up too as well, especially if there's space for 3%. So if there's an amendment to be made for that, I don't know. Do we have to go back to legal for that? I'm not sure. But I don't know if I'd vote on it if we're not going to keep it fair by playing both sides, right? If we're going to go down, you got to kind of go up too. That's my piece. Thank you.
We still have to wait for the legal form. So next is Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to quickly offer a couple comments that were made both by Councilor Jordan and Councilor Rivera. Councilor Jordan, I think, is correct about the keeping the language as close as possible to the original language, with the recommendation of whatever percentage, which the committee is recommending 1%. Councilor Rivera, I love your suggestion, but this leads right into what the problem is with ballot questions in government. Governing by ballot, the purest form of government is a town meeting, where everybody can come to a town meeting and say their piece and vote. Ballot questions allow everybody to take a vote on a specific item itself, but you can't do it menu style because the percentages, people, would be all over the place, and the numbers, the way they vote, would the weight would just would not work out to where we could decide exactly what happened, or there's a good chance we could decide exactly what happened. The voters know what they're doing. I think tonight's a healthy discussion, regardless of where you stand, about the good of the CPA tax and also the ability to have a choice. But if you look across, and I think it goes back, don't make a mistake. There's two different things that are happening here with a ballot question that we're proposing. 4 years ago, we had a and Councilor Jordan said it, long discussion about CPA and whether it was worth it and whether we should do it, where most of us were just arguing we should let the voters choose. Ultimately, the voters did choose. We designed a question that we agreed upon, the 1.5% then. We also added that the first $100,000 of the property owner's tax is exempt. So we don't even start the tax until after $100,000. So single-family homes average, I think, is about $235,000 right now. We don't start this tax until you get, you take off $100,000 from that property assessment itself. There's 194 communities in the Commonwealth that use CPA. The mean percentage is 1.5%. There are some communities, as Councilor Rivera said, that do opt for the 3%. There are some communities that opt for the 3% and don't exempt any of the property assessment itself, and there are some communities that go for a lower percentage itself. I mean, each community chooses. 4 years ago, we gave the voters a choice, but it was a limited choice. It was 1.5% with the caveat that 100% is exempt from your property itself. When you do it this way, and Councilor Vacan makes a good point, because we initiated it, we can only put a question back on the ballot to amend it. The yes or no becomes a little bit different. It's not a yes or no, are you in favor of CPA? It's a yes or no, are you in favor of reducing CPA? And we're limited to one number, I think, but only from a practical point of view, because a menu doesn't work on a ballot. And we learned this years ago when we did a menu override, and we got a lot of good input from the voters, but the override was an override, even though it seemed like it was a menu override. And it's just ballot questions are good. Voters understand what they're doing. Education is important, getting both sides of the issue out there. But this yes or no is not going to be the same as the yes or no 4 years ago. Sorry, I thought the language was back. I should have checked before we started this discussion, but I think this discussion is healthy. We just need to see the language in writing.
Yeah, just on that, I know there's two other people that want to speak, but the real issue is we have nothing to vote on because there's no language, so it'd be better served if we debate it when we get the language. Just saying, but next in line was Councilor Bartley.
I'm going to defer my comments based on that comment.
Next is Councilor Jordan.
Yes, Mr. President, just very quickly on the math, because there was a doubting Thomas to my mathematics. They have $800,000 a year. If you reduce that by a third, everybody get their calculator out, plus or minus. Of course, I rounded at 250. You'll see it's approximately 250, maybe 270. So that's the math of it. So have a good evening.
Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to ask that we table this in council for the legal language for our next meeting.
Motion is to table is seconded, non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? All right, that one's tabled. That was D, but we still have E and I. Motion for those is that they're complied with?
Maybe just we keep them on the table too, just not to rehash them or not to redo them, but just because they go hand in hand with the discussion.
Motion to table. Take E and I and table those as well. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I promise I won't make another committee report.
All right, F, G, H are all complied with. Make a motion, take them up as a package.
Second it.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? F is Holyoke Media come in to give an update. G is order that the city treasurer be invited into finance to give an update on cleanup efforts. And H is that invite in Flynn Financial to Finance Committee. Recommend that they all be complied with. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I jumped a little quick there. F is just a little bit separate, but complied with. It was your order that was a request. A number of councilors also was looking for information and an update from Holyoke Media. I can't thank Scott McPherson enough for the presentation he made to the Finance Committee. If everybody doesn't have a package, there's some hard copies here. I think it's been emailed, but a very detailed presentation of Holyoke Media historically. And also we're receiving the annual report this evening, which we did refer to the Finance Committee. But for the purposes of our president's order, Scott came before us and went into detail about the membership of the board itself. Without getting into too much detail about the history of the monies that come through the cable franchise fees themselves, the membership of the board that currently exists that oversees Holyoke Media is we, the city council, appoint one. We found out we don't have or never made that appointment in recent years. Councilor Tallman has an order later on the agenda. The mayor appoints one. The school committee appoints one, which is very important. There are 5 at-large members, and their board of directors appoints one too to represent them. They currently have 3 full-time staff members. If you haven't taken a tour or the open house, their work is about complete in the building that they purchased several years ago, which is the former Bresnahan Insurance, the former Gleason Townhouse building right over here on Suffolk Street. Scott went into great detail about all the wonderful things that they offer to any Holyoke resident of no charge, and the items that they can do in terms of media and use of equipment and use of what the Holyoke Media provides is tremendous. They are responsible for our access channel. They are responsible and work close with us. They were tremendous during the pandemic, and not just with city council meetings and school committee meetings, but with all our boards meetings and allowing us and helping us do the Zoom appropriately according to state law. They continue to do that. They continue to provide a tremendous amount of assistance. I mentioned the school committee. A portion of the monies of the fees are still funneled into the IT department at the Holyoke High School itself. I think there's going to be a portion more dedicated to, I always say Dean, and I always will say Dean, but to Holyoke South, if I'm saying it correctly. And it's just a lot of money that comes in through the franchise fees of everybody that pays a cable bill, but it's put to good use, I think, in so many different ways. And we thank Scott for making that presentation to the Finance Committee. If we could just separate and maybe just say this is complied with, that
All right,
there's
so
no
motion
questions.
is that one is complied with. All those. Councilor Tallman first.
I agree with you. I was just looking at my drawer. I got the little memento from the Holyoke Public Schools studio opening April 2005. So I mean, we're going back at least 18 years, and the money's still going into that from this group. It's very important. Scott did a great meeting, and I believe I wrote down that they get from the franchise fee, I think it's $500,000 a year. So just to let the public know that.
Councilor Jordan.
Yes, Mr. President, Scott made a very generous offer to set up another tour of the facility for the counselors. If we could take them up on that, that would be really nice to attend.
Okay.
I agree.
Thank you.
I'll work with Scott. So this one is and this is F. This is it's been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
The next part of the items here, the next part of the Finance Committee, we dedicated to bringing our treasurer, Rory Casey, in, Flynn Associates, which is a management of our stabilization funds company, investment management company itself. in a very lengthy and very productive discussion on how the Treasurer's Department is doing since Mr. Casey was appointed by this body to be our treasurer. It goes without saying, the treasurer is an elected position in the city of Holyoke. Mr. Casey filled a vacancy in that position under state law. We, as elected officials, voted to put him in that capacity. That makes him an elected official. Some people like to say acting, but the responsibilities of the treasurer's office is very important to the finance makeup of city government here in Holyoke. It's very important to what I've always said is part of a checks and balance system, whereas an elected person does not answer directly to the mayor, does not answer directly to the city council, even though we appointed him as an acting treasurer. But the treasurer is responsible for a number of different things, which includes the cash reconciliation of all revenues that come into the city, including the school department, payroll reconciliation, and tax titles, and stabilization funds and investments that are made. Mass General Law is very clear about that, and Rory made a very good presentation showing both his knowledge and his dedication and performance of him and his staff over the recent takeover. Rory thinks there's just some structural inequities that have existed, and that they're making good progress through the mayor funding, and I believe it was free cash that we allow the mayor to use. Sarah Hunter, a consultant, has been hired. She was with us in the finance committee meeting, talked about a lot of the things that they're doing and recommendations that they're doing to change the way work is done in the treasurer's office. The reason a lot of things are being looked at is we have gotten behind as a city in reconciling the cash book itself and the revenue coming in. Rory and Sarah did report that fiscal 2022, with the help and not cooperation, but with the work with Lanston and Heath, now known as Markin, if I'm saying it correctly,
Yep.
that those books are just about ready to be closed, that the process has completed in fiscal 23, the current year is begun. Ideally, we'd like to see the current year be up to date within a month or two. I think is fair in terms of knowing that the actual revenue that we count on is the actual revenue that came in, to put it in layman's terms itself. The rest of the evening, or a good part of the evening, was dedicated towards Flynn Financials, which is, again, the financial management vendor that the city years ago, and not just the Treasurer's Department, but Flynn Financials works with the gas and electric, works with a number of different city departments, works with a number of different not-for-profit agencies within the city itself. Tim Flynn was before us. I know Tim. Tim is a Holyoker. I know his family. Tim made a presentation to update his in a company called Flynn Associates of how it's worked. We learned a number of different things of what's been going on since 2008. We talked a lot about the stabilization fund, the investments, and a lot of good questions were asked. I won't steal any thunder from Councilor Jordan, who asked a number of different questions, and both related to Mass General Law, but also both related to concerns he has. But I'll end by just highlighting a couple of things that Tim talked to us about. One of his answers to the question was the company charges, they're not on commission, they charges 0.3% per million for the work that they do. It's not a commission that is a percentage that escalates. It's a percentage that is very limited and pays for their costs. They do make a profit, but they're in business to make a profit. That's understandable. We learned that the fund itself has, and I think we all know this because we see it in the budget every year, has grown through the investments that have been made over the years. Both Mr. Casey and Mr. Flynn assured us under Mass General Laws 167A through F that the way stabilization dollars can be invested is very controlled, and the oversight is provided through that law and through the state itself. Not as flexible as retirement funds can be invested, but the dollars can be invested. There can be arguments made. I, for one, am positive about what Flynn Associates has done, about both our current treasurer and prior treasurers working closely with Flynn Associates. I think we've seen a very healthy and maintain a very healthy stabilization fund itself. Well, we have talked over the years about use of stabilization funds. Until recently, we had one thing, and then I'll stop because I'm making too long committee reports here. A lot of this can be seen on our a lot of this can be seen, and as we all know, just go on the website and hit the finance committee meeting, and it's taped, and it's going to always be there for anyone to listen to the whole thing. One of the things that we did learn that some years ago, the main stabilization fund, which is what we refer to as the rainy day, was divided in two, and that was for it's essentially just a purpose of the way it was being invested and some protection things itself. But since then, we have started two other stabilization funds with very specific purposes, the capital outlay, and we do have a stabilization fund within the wastewater treatment plant itself. But regardless, it was a great meeting, and I thank Mr. Casey for being before us and for bringing Mr. Flynn in to make the presentations.
Councilor Jordan.
Yes, I thought the chairman did a very good job running that meeting, as he usually does, and I thought he summarized it well. I'll just add a couple of additional points. First of all, it's obvious to everyone who's following this that the new treasurer is working very, very hard for the city, and he's doing his level best to, improve our situation in that office. I will say, just relative to the general operations of the Treasurer's Department, it is, and it continues to be, very concerning to me that as old as this city is, as long as we have had a treasurer's office, it is extremely distressing to me that we continue to have these type of problems, that we cannot do things like make sure the checkbook is balanced and tied out, that these things are reconciled to our audited financial statements. We need serious attention in that office. Either they need assistance or what, but reports that are supposed to be going to the state are not being filed on time. I believe there was a series of reports that were due back in mid-November. That's when other communities filed. Ours are still not done yet. And to say, well, that's the way we've been doing it around here for some years, that's not really a good answer. There's a lot of room for improvement and attention. Now, I think Rory would be the first person to say he agrees with all that. I know he's working very, very hard. He puts in long hours to do a great job, and I am personally very impressed with him. Having said that, at the end of the day, we're judged by our results too. And at the end of the day, these things, the taxpayers are owed a world better than what we're getting over there. And there's been a number of problems in that office that started with IG investigations 15 years ago to where we are today, and we still don't have it right. So that needs to get improved as soon as possible. And if that means we need additional resources or oversight, please let us know how the city council certainly can help. As far as Flynn Financial goes, I'll say a few things about that. One is that I think we need to have a serious conversation about the investment policy that we have relative to these funds. The stabilization fund is the emergency fund that you would have for a family, and it is the emergency fund of this city. And to have this being invested in riskier investments is concerning to me. I think we need to seriously have a reevaluation about safety of principal and to have perhaps lower rates of gain, maybe something more in the 3 to 5% range than, shooting for these high, but then you're going to get these big lows whenever the market goes the other direction. Like, for example, in the last 5 quarters, we've lost well over in the last 5 quarters. That's a lot of money. And the thing that concerns me about this is when the market is down and when the general economy is down, that's probably when we would need these funds the most. And I think we need to have a further conversation about this. Now, as far as Mr. Flynn goes, the gentleman is obviously very talented. He's been working for the city for quite a while, I understand. But, he's 0.3%, although not unreasonable by what investment expenses are, certainly. And if you were to hire an investment manager, that is not an unreasonable amount to pay in terms of an expense ratio. But nevertheless, it's $50,000 a year that could be really not needed, because I question the whole notion of having all these monies invested in the stock market and all of this. In the standard is the prudent person. And if this is the retirement fund or various trust accounts or different things of this nature, I could see investments that are on a long-term basis where you would never have a full draw potentially of the principal. Those absolutely, need to be involved in equities and different types of riskier investments in the long term and in the long run, like the retirement board does. That's completely appropriate. But here, where these funds at any moment could be drawn on, completely withdrawn to cover a necessary city expense, should not be invested in the stock market, for example. And I pointed out at the meeting, we're not currently even following our current investment policy. There's also reporting requirements that need to be, and receiving of reports. I think people needs to be watching some of this. I'd like to see more regular meetings between the treasurer and the investment manager if we're going to stay with an investment manager. But I think when one considers, the $50,000 of guaranteed money by not having an investment and what we could earn on more conservative investments, that makes all the world of more sense. That's my guidance. It is not certainly my decision. I defer to the mayor and treasurer certainly to make those decisions, but that's how I would advise it. That's certainly what I would do for my family, and I would certainly, as this is the city's emergency account. Now, there's other, we all have retirement accounts and things of that nature that we would invest in a different way, but not to know that if you had a real financial issue, you need those funds to know they're there. And so it was a really healthy discussion. Really appreciated the open dialogue and the conversation. And so look forward to working on that. I also heard some really good things about Mr. Flynn relative to, he has some knowledge regarding OPED trusts and investments in those areas. So that's certainly an interest of mine in the future. So look forward to continuing to work with our treasurer's office on all these discussions, and appreciate the treasurer's hard work.
So the motion is that G and H are complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
That gets us to public safety. So public safety, if you would,
You're up, Izzy. You're up.
you can take A, B, G, H, and I as a package.
Yeah, we could do
Alright,
that.
So take them up as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
A, B, G,
So
and
A,
I.
B, G, and H, I'll read them. A is, let's see, public safety referred an order from mayor regarding the police audit document, recommended it's been complied with. B, public safety was referred in order that the mayor be invited to public safety to present on the audit, complied with. G, Public safety was referred, in order that the chief of police, business owners, residents that live in the communities are invited to discuss safety measures to prevent shootings. That's complied with. H is public safety was referred to honorable council, inviting the chief of police to discuss. The department has a traffic squad. That's complied with. And I is public safety. The police department provide an update on steps and systems put in place to ensure spot charter, and that's been complied with. Councilor Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. President. So A and B are a mixture, or they're kind of almost the same. So I'll save that one for last. So it's A, B, what was it again? A, B?
A, B, G, H, I.
G, H, and I. So G, order the chief of business. So G, Councilor Maldonado Velez, I believe, is the one that filed this order, with a couple of other councilors co-signing. We invited in the licensing board as well as the chief of police. We had the chair of the licensing board. I believe his last name, I'm going to say Mr. Luciano, right? I say Luciano because I believe that's the right way to say it, but it could be Luciano, whichever one. So they weren't able to stay the whole time. So fortunately, Michael Moriarty, who was another board member or commissioner, came and he was able to speak. He gave an actual very in-depth explanation as the processes to how they do things. He stated pretty much that within his tenure, I don't know exactly how many years he's been on, but it's been more than 5 to 6 years. He said that he's experienced. There's only been a situation of 2 different shootings with regards to the clubs or the bars or whatnot. One of them happened up by the clubhouse. It was actually outside. According to what he said, it didn't really have much to do with the patrons, but more or less about what's going on in that community or neighborhood, more or less. And then the second piece was the one that happened at the Unicorn Inn. That one happened inside. There were a variety of factors that were happening at the same time. He went into explanation as to they don't, as a licensing board, when things like this happen, they don't actually take initiative to go out and take somebody's license. There has to be a complaint filed first. When the complaint comes to them, then they take it up. They bring someone in. They do 48 hours notice. To make sure that the community is aware and able to attend. And with regards to the Unicorn's specific particular situation for that particular event, they voluntarily shut down just to make sure that things were going to be, they can fix the situation and make sure that they're all right before they open up. He said that at the same time, as they voluntarily shut down, they were also going through a relicensing process. So that allowed for them to clear up their relicensing processes and allowed for the licensing board to be able to mitigate the situation and have better communication with regards to how to best approach the situation. Both the licensing board and that business were in agreement to shut down for the time that they did. And when they were in compliance, they automatically were renewed their license. The chief, he spoke briefly on the topic, but their standing sounds like there's not necessarily a safety plan. I think it was Councilor Teffer Murphy-Ramboletti that asked the question around if bars have the same requirement as cannabis dispensaries with regards to safety plans. I think she also quoted to say there's no cannabis fights at dispensaries.
I said I see
right?
more bar fights than I see dispensary fights.
There you go. That's what it was. Thank you. More bar fights than dispensary fights. So that was something that was kind of interesting, right? To see a safety plan or whatnot. According to the licensing board, they do have somewhat of a safety plan, but it's more about like fire exits and capacity wise. It doesn't have to do with like active shooter stuff. So that is that particular item. Then there's 17H. We brought in the chief of police to speak to the traffic squad. Apparently, according to the chief, that he said since 1993, he's never seen a traffic squad and he's been employed since 1993, and that this rule was created in possibly the 70s, and that it's an old rule that might need to be amended or edited, because we don't have the capacity now to do the traffic squad. They don't have any particular officers assigned to the traffic squad, even though it, I believe, is ordinance. So we pretty much complied with the order, but I will be filing another order to make an amendment to that ordinance to either strike it or change the language, so that way the police department is in compliance and no longer out of compliance, because as a police department, you don't want your own police department to be breaking the city ordinances. That's not a good example. So I'll be following up with another order to try to fix that. There's that one. So it's GH, what was the other one?
ABGHI.
ABGHI. Where the police provide update on steps. So the shot spotter one. So we got somewhat of a update with regards to shot spotter. They gave us an update stating that it's working now, as we all know, and that they have officers trained, 2 specific officers that are trained, and that the program was opened up to them from a variety of different communities first, so that they could play with it, toy with it, and actually get some experience on how to use the program before it actually went live. As it's live, and we know there was apparently a result of an arrest due to the spot shotter. So it seems to be working as it should, as some of the counselors stated. But my questions were more or less about future maintenance and future strategic planning on how to keep up with shot spotter. Because as we'll learn through the report, for us, structure, maintenance, and forward thinking and planning is something that lacks in our department. That's that piece. And then A and B, right? The top one. Yep. So A and B was the audit. We were fortunate to have Mr. David Kurz, funny guy, Sean Kelly, and Michael Healy. He sounds like he's a Holyoke guy. Michael Healy, to come through and present on the audit. I have a ton of notes. I'm just going to point out what are some of the main things. At the end, they said 3 main topics that they called the big 3, like the Celtics back in the days, right? The first one was developing a strategic plan with regards to how we're going to go about improving the structures within the department and how to best utilize our officers' time on task. 2 was a communications plan. That's pretty interesting to me because I filed an order about communications a while ago and I got laughed at. But at the end of the day, they said a communications plan is important and pivotal to make sure that the community knows what's happening with the police department, so that the police department is communicating amongst different departments and everybody's on the same page, and amongst themselves within the department, between lieutenant supervisors and patrolmen, a variety of avenues of communication so that there's clear and transparent understanding of roles and expectations. And then the last point they wanted to harp on throughout the whole, well, they did harp on throughout the whole report, was an accreditation program. An accreditation program is just pretty much verifies that our department pretty much follows a variety of standards that are best practices that are followed throughout the country by a variety of other police departments. At this moment, our police department is not an accredited program, and they kind of made a point to state, like, would you pay for your kid to go to a college institution that is not an accredited program? Would you send your kid to the doctors that is not an accredited doctor? So that is something that we should be focusing on, and that we should be taking steps to fix in the future and to mitigate and try to work on getting ourselves accredited. They stated that it will not prevent lawsuits, but when you go into court for a lawsuit, when you are accredited, it shows that you put in the time and the due diligence to make sure that you dotting your I's and crossing your T's, and that you're doing what needs to be done with regards to policing the city. Another thing that they kind of pointed out, there are a variety of things. Using officers that are supposed to be patrolmen for special assignments, such as working evidence, working the back desk, being a mechanic. This is taking officers off the streets. I think the report said that we have 64% police presence versus the average community has 89% police presence. We have, I believe, 60 actual patrolmen that we can draw from, but of the 60 patrolmen, I think 35 of them are supervisors, and the rest of them are remaining patrolmen that police the streets. So when you really look at it, we have 92, or we're supposed to have 92 officers that we pay for, but we only have about 35 that actually police the streets. As Councilor Vacan pointed out, Chicopee has a higher percentage of policing the streets than we do. There are a variety of reasons why that could be, but at the end of the day, one of the things that they pointed out is that our department is a substantial risk to the city and a substantial liability with regards to how their enforcement policies that they have not updated in years. It's supposed to be updated every year. The fact that the policies across the board have not been updated, and they seem to be copied and pasted from another department, which you could do, but you still have to make the edits to make sure that things are matching to fit the department that we actually have. Another point that stuck out to me a lot was training. We do not train our officers, and our officers do not take an official certified training when they graduate from the academy. Our officers get trained, but they're trained Holyoke style, I guess. That's what it sounded like. There is no actual official training that we go through. That is something that those are some of the first steps I feel like we should be going after with regards to that. They recommend that we train officers as soon as they come in. We train officers as soon as they get promoted to new positions, so that that way they have a better understanding of their positions, and they have a better understanding of how the policies work within that position to better enforce and make sure that the department is doing their job to the best of their abilities. They also highlighted maintenance, right? Maintenance on the cameras that have been up for years, but for some reason don't work. Maintenance on cameras that are watching the prisoners while incarcerated that don't work. Maintenance on some of the doors that keep the prisoners in. Sometimes they're not able to open them. There's a variety of different things. The building itself is getting to a point where it needs to be upkept. So again, this all goes back to what they said, strategic plan, right? There's a variety of different strategic plans, and another caveat should be a capital improvement plan. So that way they all come together and make sure that they plan forward thinking how to keep up with what we have and how to fix the things we don't have. I mean, that are not being kept up with. So, I mean, there's a lot more, but any other questions, we could do that now if we want, or I could continue and finish off the little bit of items that I got, whichever one.
You can finish your report.
Okay. So then those are all done. The 17 GHI.
Oh yeah, we'll get to those. Yeah,
those are done.
Okay.
So, do we motion to comply with those, or
No. So what we'll do is there were some hands up. So first was Councilor Vacan.
Yep.
Councilor Vacan.
Now I'm unmuted. Thank you. I just wanted to add a couple points that I thought were really important as well. Once I'm a big fan of accreditation, but we have a lot of basic needs that we have to accomplish before we're ready to go on that path. So the most significant thing, and there are many of them in the report that jumped out at me and that the chief articulated as well, is that we have to bring our staffing complement up. The biggest problem that came up time and time again is that people are tired, they're being forced to do overtime, and at the same time, we're always looking to try to control the overtime, right? So I was encouraged by our chief saying that with this new group of recruits going through training, even with the retirements, we will have a better net gain. But he did, of course, as we know, indicate that this isn't something that will be fixed this year. But I would like to know, as much as there's a number of negative things in there that need to be fixed, he did let us know that he is working on a number of the most immediate things, such as the card swipes, functional things that are needed for safety of the workers and the people that are in the jail, and that most significantly, the recruiting. So while there are negative things that are definitely in there to be improved, I think there is a proactive attitude and approach by our chief to fix some of the things. And I am a fan of having accountability in each and every department. And so I think this sort of approach should probably be brought to every department. Part of the problem that they talked about quite a bit that is contributing to the forced overtime is the amount of time off that has been negotiated in these contracts over the last 10, 15, 20, 25 years. When times were tough and there wasn't a lot of money to put increases in, time off was given. And they showed us a chart that shows essentially, if you think you have a full-time person, 40 hours a week times 52 weeks, in our police department, because of the variety of issues and time off matters in their contracts, we are getting about half a full-time equivalent for each person that we consider full-time. So there are some serious contractual issues which we do not negotiate. However, we can acknowledge that they exist and need to be fixed. And it all goes to the availability and the burnout of our officers who have been noted repeatedly in this study, who are very dedicated to the city. Now, it was pointed out that a certain percentage of officers said if they could get a better deal somewhere else, they would take it. I want to clarify, because statistics can be used in many ways and manipulated in many ways. But that 58% number that's being used was of 33% of the respondents to a survey. And so it was a very small sample, and the overwhelming feedback from most of the officers was that they are very devoted to their jobs, to keeping our city safe, and that they're very dedicated to our city. So I like to point out some of the positives. We all can see very clearly some of the negatives, and the chief did say he's willing to come in. He's already fixing some of the obvious evident problems, and he's very willing to come in and report to us on an ongoing basis progress on those metrics. So thank you.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, Mr. President, we could be here till 1 in the morning talking about this report. So I'm going to make my points very concise. One is, I hope the mayor calls a special meeting relative to the police audit, because I think we have to have us here, you with the chair, and the mayor here talking about what he wants to take from that report and try to project out timelines. I really hope that's considered by the mayor, and in the next month or two, certainly before we get to the budget hearing. I think it's that important. Instead of having what I saw last night was great, but it's just very fresh information. And I think tonight, if we go through this, we're going to be here I think we just need to have a dedicated special meeting for that, for your consideration. A couple other small points really were somewhat shocking to me, but the comment about why we're self-insured, I know that was off topic, and it was just a side comment, but those gentlemen were stunned as to why this city is self-insured. And I think that's a topic that we're going to have to talk about, and the mayor's going to have to present to us a plan in terms of our liability. We all know that those of us who've been here for a minute or two, we've had issues with that department, and we've been sued. And how these settlements worked out the way they did is a credit to the attorneys representing the city. So I'll stop there. Deployment. You just heard the chair say, I think, that they're going to have 2 officers ready for ShotSpotter. Well, wait a minute. If we can all of a sudden pull out 2 officers for ShotSpotter, why in the world don't we have a traffic squad with 2 or more officers? Why is that hard? We can obviously pull 2 out, deploy them right then and there. But we just heard a report as if, respectfully, I'm not being mean, but saying, well, I'm going to file an order to change an ordinance because we're not complying with it. Wait a minute. Why don't we file an order to say, why aren't we complying with this?
I agree with you.
It's an ordinance. And again, I promise I'd be brief. So let me just go 2 more. One is unbelievable. The training issue on tasers and use of force. Wow. Those are just issues we just really have to get our arms around. And again, that's why I call for a special meeting. I can't call for it. You can call for it, Mr. President, and the mayor can call for it. But we need to figure out you've heard the Ward 5 councilor say so many times, let's get the low-hanging fruit. Well, let's get the low-hanging fruit here, but let's think down the road for a little bit. Organizational culture. You heard the gentleman last night speaking about organizational culture trumps all, including policies. And okay, so it's great to have policies. We all feel good when we have a policy. Accreditation, well, we all feel good when we're accredited. Come on. The culture, deployment. But I'm going to finish on a high note because I think what we heard them say, I heard him say it, and I think we all heard him say it, is the incredible amount of pride that HPD officers feel in their job, and they feel even more pride when they are at outside trainings or outside organizations. And you work where? They take tremendous pride in wearing an HPD badge and uniform. I think that's something that we can use as a foundation and hopefully build upon that. Thank you.
Anyone further? Councilor Rivera.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mr. Bartley. I agree with a lot of your sentiment. And with regards to the ordinance that I kind of wanted to file, I only filed it because I felt like I haven't filed it yet, but I've only mentioned it because I felt like they're not gonna it's not gonna be complied with. You know what I'm saying? Like there was no answer, there was no solution to actually trying to comply with it. So I felt like to help the police department to get out of not complying with the order and to move us to a place where the police are not, violating the ordinance, I felt like it would make sense to do that. But I agree with you. So if you want to do that, I would co-sign your order too as well. But then I didn't want to kind of go into like the details around the surveys because, like Councilor Vacan said, it was only 33% of the people that took the survey. I think first of all, to me, that is a travesty, right? We have a department that works for us as a city, and I understand people work, but like surveys were emailed and you could take some time to do those, right? That's the first thing. That could help us. We're paying good money to get these surveys done, to get this analysis done. So if you don't show up for us to do these analyses, then we are literally blowing money down the drain at the end of the day. That's the first piece. That's kind of unprofessional to me. But then the other piece is when they were there, kind of like interact with people, they kind of felt the cold shoulder. They kind of felt the organizational culture to be, defeated-ish. And I understand that, like, with regards to overtime and how much time they work, how much time they're putting in. I am in agreement with being able to give them, funding them at the capacity they need if they are using the money that they're getting effectively and efficiently. So to speak to the 35 special assignments, to be paying a patrol officer to do front desk duties, that is not an effective way to use our city funds at the end of the day. And to have a patrol, I would prefer a patrol officer, as they mentioned, on the streets, policing the streets, versus behind the desk. We can hire a civilian to be behind the desk at a less rate, and if they go overtime, it's way less money when we're paying for overtime on that. So there are a variety of mechanisms that we could explore, and that's the positive that I got out of it, right? Because at the end of the day, now I could feel like I could vote for putting more money in the police budget, which before I didn't feel that way, as long as we're meeting some of these goals and we're working towards creating a strategic plan on how best to go forward to mitigate a lot of these issues. The survey said 69% don't believe the department is well managed. 69%, right? And I didn't want to bring them up, but since we're bringing it up, let's bring it up, right? 58% would leave, given the same opportunity somewhere else. 66% feel they're undertrained, and 70% feel that the department can't keep up with the technology that they have. So these are staggering numbers. These are huge numbers. Granted, it's a small sample. I wouldn't have even presented the sample, but since it was brought up, I figured we got to kind of elaborate and be transparent to the community and let the people know. Again, this is not about whether or not the police are not doing a good job, because we know that they're out there policing the streets, they're risking their lives, they're leaving their families, they're doing what they need to do to make sure that they're getting their job done. This is about how can we improve our service and how can we get the best bang for our buck when we're investing into this department. One of the things that stood out to me too as well is that they stated that the police are functioning on a $12.3 million budget, but they didn't get any access to any of the grant information. So there's like, the budget's not just 12.2 million, there's an extra probably 10 to 12 million with regards to grants. So it would be something interesting for them to be able to explore that piece too. But again, let's just stop so we can move on. And if anybody else has any other questions, we could do that, and then I'll just finish my committee report.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I'll be brief. Counselor, thanks for the report. And I actually read that when it came in about 2 weeks ago. I sat down, and I don't usually read through those things, but I read through almost the whole packet there, but the audit. And thanks for the report. But I agree with Councilor Bartley. I think we have to move on and do something about this with the mayor and the council. Sit down. What are our plans? What are we going to do? How far are we going to go with this? And we got to chop off little things. Slowly move along the things that need to get done that are important as far as safety, as far as training, as far as working conditions, and as far as the building itself, And I think one of the big things I took away from would you rather have a civilian at the desk or an officer? And I think we need more police on the street. And a lot of the contract stuff's important too, and a lot of that stuff happened 10, 15 years ago that they got because of the money wasn't there and they gave them time off. So that's just part of the contract, and we have nothing to do with that. But I don't know how that can ever change. Once it's in there, I don't know how that ever changes. But we have to sort of take that as a roadmap. What can we do? What is the future of the police department, step by step? All of us collectively, and the mayor and the police chief, to move on and to make this department better than what it is today, and make the working conditions and the people that are proud to be Holyoke police officers, continue to have that attitude to go out there day in and day out. I mean, I run into some of these officers sometimes on the street and chat with them about stuff, and they are overworked. A lot of these guys, yeah, some are making great money, but when you're working from 3 to 11, and then all of a sudden they got to stay another shift, they don't want to. They got families. years ago they said, oh yeah, I'd love to work the overtime. I make some more money. I make another 20, 30,000. But some of these people they're just getting burnt out. And how effective are you when you're working 16 hours? So I think staffing is a big thing, and I think we could all sit down and really put our thoughts together on how we can get and move forward with this audit. And as Councilor Vagan said, maybe it's something that we look forward to other departments to audit to see how we can make things better. Thank you.
Anyone further? Oh, Councilor Givner, sorry.
Thanks for not forgetting me, Mr. President.
Sorry.
I thought the presentation last night was really thorough. I did notice that among the other, along with things that came up that we already discussed, I always notice that there seems to be a systems issue, and systems only work if you use them. So, and most systems that exist to make work and life more efficient and easy. Considering the state of this building in the last couple of years and the systems not in use here and all the progress that's being made, I am optimistic about possibilities for our police department. I don't think it's entirely all their fault of what they're going through. And I'm sure we're going to be as supportive as we possibly can be to get them on the right track. However, I do not believe that throwing more bodies and more money at this is the solution. Throwing more people at a problem that is not fixed is not going to solve it. You're just going to have more people filing things by hand or writing down things. So, okay, great, you'll have more bodies writing more notes. We really need to fix systems, create systems, improve systems so that the amount of people that we have available can do the work that needs to be done. I agree with Councilor Bartley that a private session would be really helpful in discussing this further and understanding what the priorities are that are coming out of this audit. And I think it's really great to have these conversations started. I don't think there was any animosity yesterday. I think it was all very straightforward, and all the information is useful, and I hope we take a lot out of it and move forward in a positive way.
Anyone further? Councilor Rivera? Or all set? So for all these, for A, B, G, H, and I, that they're complied with, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
And then you have
17.
E, F, and J take up as a package.
E, F, and J. Second.
All those in favor? All opposed? E is refer that the city engineer determined the installation of a crosswalk. That would be Kane and Norwood Circle. Recommended that the engineer install the crosswalk and be accepted. F is, the engineer evaluate an intersection at Evergreen and Bray Park Drive improved due to safety concerns. Recommended that the engineer recommended install a yield sign be accepted. And J is that the engineer's recommendation not install speed humps. So those are the recommendations for E, F, and J. Councilor Rivera.
Thank you, Mr. President. So with regards to E and F, oh no, is it E and F? I think it's E and J. That, no pun intended. Some people get it. Wait, J and F look the same. I just know that
No, J was temporary speed humps, whereas F was putting in the yield sign.
So with regards to this temporary speed bump humps, right? And then E is the crosswalk guards. Yep. So those two, according to the city engineer, he sent a communication stating that those could be approved, that they've done research in the past, and he just referenced the research that was done in the past. So he sent the communication. I don't actually have the communication in front of me right now. My notes were taken on the stuff we spoke on. So the communication piece, I didn't take no notes because I just read out the communication to the public. But for J, I believe I got a communication from Jeff, right, about Bray Park. And I'll read it, where it says Chris recommended a yield sign. From the order from last night, Chris recommended a yield sign, evergreen, as it approaches by pre-draw. He mentioned in his memo that he believed the yield sign was already approved last November. We don't see it in record in the meeting minutes or any other meeting showing an approval. With that in mind, I think it'd be necessary that we refer this back to ordinance, so that way we get the legal language and be able to actually install the yield sign, because the legal language process has not been done yet in the past. So that one is for the Bray Park one, but the other two are to be accepted and adopted by the city engineer's recommendation.
Councilor Vacan.
Thank you, Mr. President. So just to clarify, on the crosswalk, yes, he did recommend that that should be installed. On the speed humps on Bray Park, he did not recommend those. On the improvement on the intersection, he recommended the yield sign. And initially, we had received and adopted my order to improve the safety there and sent it to the engineer. And he was simply coming back now telling us what he was going to do, which the committee approved. And I'm not aware that we need to put that in ordinance form, but maybe legal wants to step in, but I thought the engineer could put up a yield sign on a safety matter.
I think so.
Is motion to suspend rules allow Mike to speak?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Mike?
Good evening again. Yes, the engineer can install on a yield, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so it is recommended that the yield sign be accepted.
So we just accept it then here. That's fine.
Anyone further on these three?
So just so I'm clear, so the motion is to adopt the report by the city engineer for these three orders?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep,
Okay.
second.
All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, so those. I'll catch up here. There was no C or D. I think that's it for that committee. Public service,
Point
DGNR.
of order?
Yep, sorry.
Just C and D, just to the chair, what do we do with those? Do we
They're
just table?
tabled in committee.
Table and committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep. On to charter and rules, 20A. Committee on Charter and Rules refer an order that we add a Rule 9BV11 committee to read. Youth Services Committee have jurisdiction. Recommend that the order has been complied with. Councilor Maldonado Velez.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this order has showed up twice in our committee. It's the one order that came out of committee. I wanted to vote on it, yay or nay, if we wanted to do it or not, just so we can get it moving. I think part of what we're trying to do in charter and rules is trying to see how efficient and effective we can be as a body, as a council. If we are not efficient and effective, then how do we expect the rest of our city departments to be effective? It's the body that makes the laws is not effective. So I think with this one in particular, the discussion around it is that we have certain rules in our city council, particularly Rule 10C, if I'm not misspeaking, around having a youth representative in our council. That is something I've been here a year and a half, and there has been no moves on that. So, I mean, I guess the question is, what does that mean about our council rules, really? So with that said, with this one, I think I went with the comply with because I would love to, I wanted to give a report and see where the charter and rules are at right now. So that is what I have to say with that. And then also, if you were tuning in on Monday, it was a very interesting meeting where we had a guest who scared us in a way. So I just want to sort of make a note to look out for each other. I know there's 13 of us. We have our political beliefs, but at the end of the day, we are Holyokers. So thank you, President McGee, for calling it out and making sure that we are being safe. Thank you.
Amen.
Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, just on the order. I happened to attend that meeting, Mr. President, and I hope I was able to give some context to quite a few of the orders that were before that committee, and I hope some of that helped, but particularly with this one, the background relative to this, I think the committee is probably on the right track, and even though this is what we felt we should be complied with, we're not going to amend anything right now. I think with a little more thought and a little more planning, as we said that night, somebody has got to take the lead on this from this body, and then with the department head in one of the schools, and then set up a process and procedure through which you can tackle this, leading up to have somebody be here starting in the fall. But there's got to be some kind of rules in place so we don't have people, children, youth, they're teenagers sitting here till 11:30 at night or whatever time and there's got to be some kind of a plan. So if you're going to file orders like this, be prepared to not just file the order, not just give rhetoric, but just to go ahead and grab the bull by the horns. So I just think that's critically important. One last point on that. Legislative bodies, Mr. President, throughout the course of history, I wouldn't say too many of them would be defined as efficient. There's certainly something that we've said in years. It's not the prettiest picture when we make the sausage. That's just a metaphor to say that legislation and the crafting of it is never going to be simple when you have so many people with equal right to speak going forward. So to say that a legislative body, in some particular person's opinion, is not efficient, that's no shock. But I think if you look at the record of this body, at least the time I've been here, but I think going back to as long as you've been here, 18 years, Joe's been here 40 years, Pete's been here 20, I think there's been a lot of great legislation produced. It's not always pretty. Nobody, we don't all hold hands at the end of a meeting, but we get the job done over the course of time. Whether you like it or not, the fact is, proof's in the pudding. When we're doing things like we did tonight, that was through a city council order. When we've done other things that are really for the benefit of the city, they're generally through a city council order that requires give and take. I think if we get to that understanding, I think we'll find that the legislative process, maybe it's not efficient, but it actually can be fun when you actually get to the final result. Thank you.
Councilor Mala-Velez.
Thank you. I just want to echo those words. Proof is in the pudding. There's a reason why many of us got elected and the council flipped in the last year because of a lot of the things that I just said. So I just wanted to make that point as well. Thank you.
Councilor McGivern.
Just quickly, Mr. President, I did have the opportunity to join Charter and Rules. I joined via Zoom. I think I was on that camera underneath the clock over there. And when the person from the public started talking, and I noticed Councilor Rivera will be very proud of our Charter and Rules Committee because they knew exactly how to evacuate very quickly and to help and seek help in controlling the situation itself. So it's a good idea that we all are aware of that. Occasionally, we do have some public input that needs to have special attention.
So, one thing I do believe what the committee did suggest is instead of keeping this in there, that we say it's complied with to follow up with another order to try and deal with setting it up the way we discussed. So there was a little more work that had to be done, but the way this order was drafted, we have to just come back and address that. Kind of what Councilor Bartley said, which is, getting a process in place. As far as sausage and pudding, I mean, it's 10:35. I am hungry because I didn't eat today. I had a coffee. But in all seriousness, an issue did come up that night. I want to say to the councilors that were here, and Councilor Bartley, you must have been taken off for food because you just missed it. You just missed it. It's all about timing. But no, in all seriousness, I want to thank the members, the way you acted, how you handled the situation, and then for the police, how they responded accordingly. If stuff like that does come up, I just echo to this council, just be cautious of things. and you know, you don't have to overreact, but just make sure that you're safe first. That's what matters. So with that, this has been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. President, I have a point of personal privilege and a possible point of reconsideration. Personal privilege, if you could. I think we may have passed a legal form from something that's been on the table for more than 2 meetings, for a few meetings, back from the law department that would be in reference towards a paralegal hiring within the law department itself. Did we get that legal form back?
I don't have anything here.
Okay. It was brought to my attention that it might be a number of packaged things going back to item number 3, but if it's not there, then it's not there.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Thank you.
So with that, we're on, there was no joint committee. So with that, we're on to motions, orders, resolutions. Before I get to that, I just would like to thank Jeffrey for decorating everything out to set things up for tonight. Once again, always a great job, and we appreciate everything you do. Orders from Councilor Tallman, or that the City Council hold an interview to appoint the member of the Holyoke Media Board. Motion be to public service.
So moved.
All
Yeah,
those in
but-
favor? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think that's great to do that, but how are we going to get a person from the public? Is that something that?
We have to advertise.
You're
So-
definitely going to advertise?
Yeah, you have to advertise it. What we'll do is send it to public service, but then I'd say copy
The mayor, maybe?
to mayor and personnel.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
And ask our, if I could, Mr. President, ask our administrative assistant to use social media. We've done that and had some success in the past.
And post it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 23, order that the police chief, auditor, treasurer come before the finance committee to review the process of newly hired roll call technology.
Finance, please.
Finance, please.
To finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Thank you.
opposed? 24 is from Councilor Bartley, Councilor McGivern, that DPW superintendent and the BPW chair come before the city finance committee for a friendly discussion. So
Finance.
to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 25 is Councilor Jordan, or at the City Council work with the Treasurer to review and codify the city investment policy by ordinance to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 26, also by Councilor Jordan, that the order at the City Council establish an OPEB liability trust fund pursuant to Chapter 32B. So this would be to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 27 from Councilor Jordan, or that beginning in fiscal year 2024, funding the city's OPEB trust fund will become part of the operating budget, so also to finance.
Yes, please.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 28 from Councilor Jordan, or that the City Council invite in the Retirement Board Director, Mr. DeLue, to discuss the city should stay with the 2035 schedule or move to a 24 schedule. So that would be to
Finance.
finance. All those in favor?
Mr. President, can we suspend, take 29, 30, 31, and 32, ship them all to ordinance, please?
So 29, 30, 31, 32 as a package.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 29, 30, 31, 32 are from myself. Order that the zone ordinance section 7.8 wireless telecommunication facilities be amended. 30 is a zoning ordinance be amended to add section for tiny houses. 31 is add section with regards to addressing Airbnbs. And then 32, order that the zoning amend with regards to banners and signs. All to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 30.
Suspend the rules, take 33, 34 as a package to adopt.
Motion is
Second.
take up 33 and 34 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 33 and 34. So 33 is $2,293.90 for firefighter to injured on duty. 34 is $27,544.58 from police to injured on duty. Let me get those reports.
While you're getting the reports, Mr. President, just for the record, both these requests honor the tradition we have of taking, for our safety officials, police and fire, if they're injured on duty, temporary or long-term, out of the line item as salaries and into a line item for the same amount of pay for injured on duty. It's just more of an accounting mechanism, but we also like to know how many of these individuals are currently in that status.
So for the first one for fire, it's 1. For 34, which is police, it's 10. So motion is receive, adopt, pass the first reading. Councilor McGivern?
I just did it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion to pass the second
Motion
reading.
to pass the second reading. Clerk will call roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for 33 and 34.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Givner,
Yes.
Jordan, Maldonado Velez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy Ramboletti,
Yes.
Coelho,
Yes.
Israel Rivera,
He left.
Left. He left.
Jenny Rivera,
Yes.
unanimous vote.
With your vote, you approve that one.
Mr. President, make a motion that we take the rest of our items, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39 as a package, refer them to finance, and then we adjourn.
All right. Well,
I'll
not.
second
no,
that.
No, no,
I'll second that.
Slow down, slow down. So suspend the rules, take up 35 to 39 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 35 is $5,481 from firefighters to fire chief. 36 is $16,500 from sewer stabilization to professional services. 37, $100,000 from cannabis stabilization to substance abuse program. 38 is $2,523.40 for telephone charges, usage charges. 39 is $39,359.87 from solicitor, special counsel to weights and measures. So all those to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Just before you can adjourn, you have a late file. 2. You already did 1. Late file A is a communication from the mayor regarding remote participation for public meetings. Motion is to receive. All those
Receive.
in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
We already did B. Late file C from Councilor Rivera and myself, that the mayor call a special meeting to have a full discussion on the police audit to get a detailed discussion on all parts of the report. So motion would be to suspend the rules, receive, adopt, and send to the mayor.
Thank you, Counselor.
In favor? All
Aye.
opposed? So that one's done. Now there's a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We
Aye.
stand adjourned.
Have a good night, everybody.